Chapter 2052. They can't be their helpers, can they? Ming Ri floated in the air, looking at the two figures flying rapidly, and then at the expressions of Zhao Rui and Ningyu. He could not help but mutter to himself. If these two warriors were the helpers of Ningyu and Zhao Rui, then it was no exaggeration to say that even if he used the Shen immortal law, he would still be killed. If these two warriors were not the helpers of Ningyu and Zhao Rui, then he still had a chance to survive. He could even join forces with these two warriors to deal with Ningyu and Zhao Rui. So the key to everything was the relationship between these two warriors and Ningyu and Zhao Rui. Clatter. The appearance of the two warriors separated Immortal Hongling and the Fog Spirit Realm warrior instantly. The Fog Spirit Realm warrior retreated behind Ming Ri, while Immortal Hongling retreated to Ningyu's side. It's really you. Ningyu's face was also very ugly. The reason was that the two warriors who suddenly appeared were Jin Hua and Demonic Snake Immortal. But what made Ningyu a little relieved was that at this time, Jin Hua and Demonic Snake Immortal's aura were not in their peak state, as if they had just experienced a great battle. Long time no see. After Jin Hua landed, he directly said to Ningyu, I didn't expect you to be so fast. You actually came here a long time before us. Swish. Hearing Jin Hua's words, Ming Ri's face instantly became gloomy. What he was afraid of really happened. What he was most worried about was that the sudden appearance of these two warriors had something to do with Ningyu and the others. Now it seemed that Jin Hua and the others really had something to do with Ningyu. Ming Ri's eyes turned. At this time, he had a faint impulse to leave. Although it was difficult to have a chance to enter the path to heaven if he left, it was better than staying and dying. However, just as Ming Ri was about to leave, he stopped. Because he heard something unusual from Jin Hua's words. Jin Hua turned to look at Zhao Rui and said faintly, the entrance of the path to heaven is right in front. I suggest that those who haven't reached the late heaven immortal realm should scram as soon as possible. Interesting. The corner of Ming Ri's mouth involuntarily raised into an arc. Since Jin Hua and Ningyu had a grudge against each other, there was no need for him to leave. As the saying goes, the enemy of an enemy is a friend. It was not impossible for him to become friends with Jin Hua, and they could even become close friends. Idiot. Ningyu knew that Jin Hua's words were directed at him, so he rolled his eyes and said, some people really think they're infallible. Do they think that they can do whatever they want just because they're in the late heaven immortal stage? You're courting death. Jin Hua stomped his feet on the ground and suddenly rushed out. Originally, Jin Hua did not intend to attack Ningyu, but when he saw the kind eyes of Ming Ri, he instantly changed his mind and decided to teach Ningyu a lesson. Anyway, with Ming Ri's help, he did not care at all that Zhao Rui would come forward to help Ningyu. But what Jin Hua did not expect was that Zhao Rui not only did not choose to help Ningyu, but also crossed her arms in front of her chest and looked at him with interest. Is there a trick? Jin Hua's heart shuddered, feeling a little uneasy. In fact, it was no wonder that Jin Hua would have such an expression. One must know that when he first launched an attack on Ningyu, Zhao Rui's expression was very ugly, and she even stopped him. But now, Zhao Rui actually had such an expression. He suddenly felt that there was a problem. Zhao Rui was not very clear about Jin Hua's thoughts. However, if Zhao Rui knew what Jin Hua was thinking in his heart, she would definitely laugh it off. After the power of the origin-creating divine staff was increased to 35%, Ningyu's strength had been improved qualitatively. Even if he didn't use his trump card, even without her help, Ningyu could easily deal with Jin Hua. Of course, this was under the premise that Jin Hua did not go crazy. Once Jin Hua went crazy, it would be difficult for Ningyu to cause substantial harm to Jin Hua. No, I can't give him a chance to take advantage of me. Thinking of this, Jin Hua hurriedly stopped, looked at Ningyu coldly, and said fiercely, what powerful moves do you have? Show them all. Jin Hua's sudden move made Ningyu a little confused. From beginning to end, he had been standing in the same place and did nothing. Had Jin Hua lost his mind? Or perhaps, Jin Hua had lost his mind. Friend, can I have a word with you? At this moment, Ming Ri's words rang in Jin Hua's ears. Hearing Ming Ri's words, Jin Hua was stunned at first, then he glared at Ningyu fiercely, turned around, and walked towards Ming Ri. Demonic Snake Immortal thought about it and also left behind Jin Hua. The three of them are going to join forces. Looking at Jin Hua and Demonic Snake Immortal, who were constantly moving, Zhao Rui's face was a little unsightly. Aren't you and Jin Hua both from the Central Divine Dynasty? Don't worry, Jin Hua won't attack you, Ningyu said doubtfully. Zhao Rui rolled her eyes and ignored Ningyu. Although she and Jin Hua were both from the Central Divine Dynasty, with her keen perception, she still felt a murderous aura from Jin Hua. Even though Jin Hua had hidden this murderous aura, Zhao Rui still found some clues. Ningyu, why don't we make a bet? Suddenly, Jin Hua's voice rang out in the area. Ningyu frowned and asked, what do you want to bet? It's very simple. You and I will fight. If you can block one of my moves, I will give it to you. As he spoke, Jin Hua took out a jade bottle from his pocket, raised it to the top of his head, and waved it. The core of a gold battle wolf. Inside the jade bottle was the core of a gold battle wolf that Jin Hua had obtained before. Jin Hua didn't swallow or refine a single bit of it. He put all of it in the jade bottle. Why should I block one of your moves? Ningyu asked in a flat tone. Stand where you are and take a punch from me. As long as you don't move more than 30 feet, you win. Jin Hua's mouth curved into a smile as he said lightly, on the other hand, even if you lose, I won't ask you for the core of the gold battle wolf. I just need you to give me the origin creating divine stick. Jin Hua turned his attention to the origin creating divine stick. A mere core of a gold battle wolf and a half is not worthy of me taking out the origin creating divine stick as a bet, Ningyu shrugged and said disdainfully. Then what do you think we should do? Seeing that Ningyu had been fooled, Jin Hua hurriedly said. At the very least, we need 3. Ningyu stretched out 3 fingers and said. According to Ningyu's estimation, if he had 3 more gold battle wolf inner cores, he could let the origin creating divine stick unleash 40% or even 45% of its power. The origin creating divine stick with 45% power was enough for him to fight against a peak late stage heaven immortal. Alright, 3 it is. Before Jin Hua could speak, Immortal Fiend Snake, who was beside him, took a step forward and took out a jade bottle. The jade bottle in Immortal Fiend Snake's hand also contained a core of a gold battle wolf and a half. Is that okay now? Chapter 2053. That being said, I still don't think it's appropriate. Ningyu looked at the jade bottle in Jin Hua's hand and shrugged. Swish. Seeing Ningyu's action, Jin Hua's face instantly darkened. Do you want to go back on your word? Jin Hua looked at Ningyu coldly and said in a deep voice, if you don't dare, say it earlier. Don't embarrass yourself here. I think you've misunderstood. Ningyu waved his hand and said, it's not that I don't dare, but I don't trust you. What do you mean? Jin Hua said coldly. Well, I can make a bet with you, but you have to give Zhao Rui the 3 inner cores of the golden battle wolf for safekeeping, Ningyu said, glancing at Zhao Rui. No problem. Jin Hua thought for a while and agreed to Ningyu's request. After all, he and Zhao Rui were both peerless geniuses of the Central Divine Dynasty. Before he and Zhao Rui fell out, it was more appropriate for Zhao Rui to be the middleman. However, Jin Hua also made a request. He asked Ningyu to give the Origin Divine Staff to Zhao Rui for safekeeping. Jin Hua's explanation was straightforward. Since it was a bet, they should all be put together. Ningyu didn't care about giving the Origin Divine Staff to Zhao Rui. The bet between him and Jin Hua was not about using magic treasures to fight, but their fists, relying purely on primordial qi and physical strength. Although Ningyu's cultivation was much lower than Jin Hua's, Ningyu didn't think he would lose. Because he didn't intend to stand there and take Jin Hua's punch. He wanted Jin Hua to stand there and take his punch. You'd better hope that I don't kill you with one punch. After giving the 3 inner cores of the golden battle wolf to Zhao Rui, Jin Hua glared at Ningyu. Immediately, all the immortal qi in his body rushed out and gathered on his fist. Wait. Seeing Jin Hua's feet on the ground, about to rush out, Ningyu hurriedly said, I have something I'm very confused about, and I want you to explain it to me. Swish. Hearing Ningyu's words, Jin Hua instantly stopped in place, clenching his fists. At this time, Jinhua was extremely angry. What the hell do you want? Jinhua was shocked. It took him a lot of effort to trick Ningyu into betting with him. Could it be that Ningyu had seen through his scheme? Jinhua could be said to have a well-thought-out plan for this bet. The reason was that just now, Demonic Snake Immortal and Ming Ri had injected some immortal chi into his body. With his own strength, he might not be able to push Ningyu back 10 meters. But with the addition of Devil Snake Immortal and Ming Ri, even if Ningyu had advanced to the early Heaven Immortal realm, he would definitely be pushed back several meters. Therefore, in Jinhua's opinion, as long as he could trick Ningyu into betting with him, he would definitely win the Origin Creating Divine Staff. What I want to say is, since it's a bet, why do I have to stand in place and take a punch from you, instead of you standing in place and taking a punch from me? Are you afraid? Ningyu asked. How can I be afraid? Jinhua said fiercely. Since you are so arrogant, I will let you die in peace today. Come on, I will stand in place and take a punch from you. While talking, Jinhua took a step forward and made a posture of letting Ningyu attack. Jinhua's action made Demonic Snake Immortal and Ming Ri on the other side change slightly. Will there be any changes? Ming Ri frowned slightly. For some reason, he always felt that something would happen. After all, he had just fought with Ningyu and knew Ningyu's strength. In addition, he did not know Jinhua's specific strength, so it was inevitable that he would be a little worried. You don't have to worry at all, Demonic Snake Immortal said with an indifferent expression. Ming Ri did not know how strong Jinhua was, but Demonic Snake Immortal was very clear. Even if Ningyu used his full strength, it was absolutely impossible to hurt Jinhua. I hope so. Ming Ri took a deep breath and said, Red Devil, Human Devil, Dark Emperor, Ninglu, Eight-Legged Monster, the few of you don't need to rest. Quickly inject the immortal chi in your body into my body. Ningyu took a few steps back, and then his body, like a sharp sword, rushed straight out. In the process of rushing out, Ningyu not only injected the immortal chi in his body into his wrist, but also communicated with everyone in the storage ring. In any case, as long as Jinhua could be repelled 3 feet away, Ningyu did not care how Jinhua was repelled. Buzz! Buzz! Human Devil and the others did not have any hesitation. After hearing Ningyu's words, they immediately extracted the immortal chi in their body, using the storage ring as a medium, and transferred it to Ningyu's fist. What? Feeling the terrifying energy contained in Ningyu's fist, Jinhua's eyes widened, his face filled with disbelief. He was sure that with Ningyu's strength, there was absolutely no way he could have so much energy in his body. You cheated, Jinhua shouted, wanting to stop Ningyu. Bang! However, Jinhua's shout was only halfway through when it came to an abrupt stop. His body was like a kite with a broken string, flying backward. The sound of flesh hitting the ground rang out. Poochie! Jinhua crawled up from the ground with difficulty, spurting out a large mouthful of red blood. You. Jinhua raised his right hand and pointed at Ningyu. He even stuttered, You dare to cheat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Sorry, you retreated a total of 10 feet. You lost our first bet. Ningyu stretched out his hand and counted, then said, I lost the bet. The 3 golden battle wolf cores are mine. As he spoke, Ningyu's figure flashed, and he came to Zhao Rui's side, taking the jade bottle from her hand. Swoosh. Almost at the instant Ningyu took the jade bottle, a terrifying devouring power shot out from the origin-creating divine rod, sucking in the 3 golden battle wolf cores. What the F***CK? The sudden change made Ningyu unable to help but curse. Although his original intention was to give the 3 golden battle wolf cores to the origin-creating divine rod, the origin-creating divine rod made him a little angry. Buzz! However, when Ningyu saw the change in the origin-creating divine rod, he was somewhat excited. 45%. After devouring the 3 golden battle wolf cores, the origin-creating divine rod could already exert 45% of its power. With the origin-creating divine rod at 45% power, Ningyu could easily deal with a peak late-stage Heaven Immortal warrior. Now, Ningyu had a total of 3 trump cards. With his own strength, he could compete with a middle-stage heaven immortal warrior. With the red demon sword, he could compete with a beginner late-stage heaven immortal warrior and even kill him. With the origin creating divine rod, he could easily deal with a peak late-stage heaven immortal warrior and even kill him. As for the Shen immortal law, once he used it, no one could compete with him unless he encountered a true peak heaven immortal expert. Return my golden battle wolf cause. Chapter 2054. I'm willing to admit defeat. Wouldn't I lose face if I return the inner core of the golden battle wolf to you just because you said a few words? Ningyu looked at Jinhua as though he was looking at an idiot and said calmly, "You cheated. Otherwise, there's no way you could beat me." Jinhua was so angry that his nose was crooked. In fact, at that moment, he had a chance to block Ningyu's fist. However, he had a fluke mentality in his heart. In addition, he did not want to use the immortal chi given to him by Fiend Snake Immortal and Ming Ri, which led to him being blasted 10 feet away by Ningyu. Where's the inner core of the golden battle wolf? I've already swallowed and refined it. Just give up. Ningyu waved the essence-creating divine staff in his hand and said, "As for the essence-creating divine staff, it's still in my hands. If you want it, you can bet with me again." "All right, I'll bet with you," Jinhua said fiercely. "Just now, I stood on the spot and took your punch. Now, you stand on the spot and take my punch. If I win, you have to give me the essence-creating divine staff." Ningyu nodded. "Of course. Take my punch." Seeing that Ningyu had agreed, Jinhua rushed out quickly. His right fist contained a terrifying energy wave. It could be seen that Jinhua's punch was very powerful. Wait. What are you doing?" Ningyu hurriedly jumped behind Zhao Rui and said doubtfully, "Since we're betting again, there must be a new stake." Swish. Jinhua stopped instantly. Hee. Due to anger, Jinhua's teeth were chattering, making a gurgling sound. "What do you want to bet?" Jinhua suppressed his anger and said coldly, "In the first bet, my essence-creating divine staff was worth 3 inner cores of the golden battle wolf. So, this time, I need at least 10 inner cores of the golden battle wolf." Ningyu demanded an exorbitant price and directly asked for 10 golden battle wolf beast cores. In fact, Ningyu knew that after taking out 3 inner cores of the golden battle wolf, Jinhua and Fiend Snake Immortal would never have 10 inner cores of the golden battle wolf. He said this because he didn't want to use the essence-creating divine staff as a stake. After all, the power of the origin-creating divine staff could be exerted by 45%. With the help of the origin-creating divine staff, he could kill either Jinhua or Ming Ri. If he could use it to force Ming Ri, he could kill him with the essence-creating divine staff. Creating divine staff? Jinhua widened his eyes and said coldly, "I don't have 10 golden battle wolf cores, but I do have a peak stage heavenly treasure flying sword. Jin to it." In order to win the origin creation divine staff, Jinhua had sacrificed a lot and even used the condensed jade sword as a bet. "Since you're using this flying sword as a wager, I'll have to change my wager as well. Yang to. Of to say, Xing. Yang using Hua to say. Hua creating. Yang no at Hua. Yang how could Jinhua ask Ningyu to change the stakes? He refused directly. He only wanted the essence-creating divine staff. "I have made it very clear. 10 inner cores of the golden battle wolf. As long as you can take out 10 inner cores of the golden battle wolf, I will use the essence-creating divine staff as a stake. Otherwise, shut up." Ningyu's tone became cold. Even a clay figurine would get angry, let alone him. The reason why he talked to Jinhua just now was that he wanted to force Ming Ri to take action. Unexpectedly, Jinhua didn't know what was good for him and insisted on taking action. In this case, Ningyu changed his tone and said coldly, "There is no free lunch in the world. If you want the essence-creating divine staff, you have to take out something that matches it." Slap. At this moment, behind Jinhua, a palm suddenly patted his shoulder. "Let me do it." Ming Ri patted Jinhua's shoulder and said lightly, "I don't care about the essence-creating divine staff. I only care about whether I can kill him." As the word kill fell, a terrifying aura emanated from Ming Ri's body. Huh! Feeling the terrifying aura emanating from Ming Ri, Ningyu raised his eyebrows and faintly felt that something was wrong. Is he going to use the mysterious immortal law? Ningyu's heart skipped a beat. Since Ming Ri could become the leader of the Mist Spirit Realm and make a group of warriors at the late stage of Fairy Immortal Surrender, it showed that he had some skills. If Ming Ri didn't have the mysterious immortal law, Ningyu would be the first to not believe it. You want to have a life-and-death fight with me? Ningyu took a deep breath, forced himself to calm down, and said in a deep voice. Whether Ming Ri had the mysterious immortal law or not, he had it. In other words, even if Ming Ri used the mysterious immortal law, he would not be afraid. After all, he still had the trump card, the essence-creating divine staff. I don't want to have a life-and-death fight. I just want to exchange 3 moves with you. The corners of Ming Ri's mouth rose, and then he suddenly patted his chest with his right hand. Bang! Accompanied by a crisp sound, a golden cold light shot out from Ming Ri's mouth. Clatter! Seeing the golden cold light that suddenly shot out, not only Ningyu, but even Jinhua and the others around him were surprised. Mysterious immortal law. This golden cold light was nothing else but the mysterious immortal law. Seeing that Ming Ri had used the mysterious immortal law, Jinhua and the others' faces all became very ugly. Before entering the path to heaven, it was almost a conventional rule not to use the mysterious immortal law. Now that Ming Ri used the mysterious immortal law, it was somewhat unreasonable. My stake is the mysterious immortal law. I don't know what your stake is. Ming Ri pointed to the mysterious immortal law suspended in mid-air and said lightly. Ningyu's face was very ugly. Ming Ri used the mysterious immortal law as a stake, obviously to force him to take out a trump card that was more powerful than the essence-creating divine staff. After all, the 2 sides had to exchange 3 moves, and Ming Ri did not want any accidents. In Ming Ri's view, as long as he could force Ningyu's trump card that was more powerful than the essence-creating divine staff, he could easily kill Ningyu within 3 moves. His stake is also the mysterious immortal law. Without waiting for Ningyu to speak, Zhao Rui took a step forward, and a purple cold light shot out of her body. There was no doubt. The purple cold light that shot out of Zhao Rui's body was also the mysterious immortal law. Ka. Looking at the purple mysterious immortal law in mid-air, Ming Ri clenched his fists tightly, and his face became very ugly. Ming Ri's original intention was to force Ningyu to use his powerful trump card. Now, he had actually forced Zhao Rui to use her trump card. As if seeing Ming Ri's unwillingness, Jinhua's voice sounded at the right time. Ningyu, since both of you bet on the mysterious immortal law, then you naturally can't use the mysterious immortal law in the process of fighting. Chapter 2055. No problem. How could Ningyu not know what Jinhua meant? However, after the origin-creating divine staff could exert 45% of its power, even if he did not use the Shen immortal law, he could still compete with Ming Ri, and even kill him. After all, he could not use the Shen immortal law, and Ming Ri could not use it. Without the help of the Shen immortal law, Ming Ri was just an ordinary peak late fairy immortal martial artist, and was not as powerful as imagined. The first move, Flying Dragon in the Sky. Seeing that Ningyu agreed, Ming Ri's feet stepped on the ground, and his body rushed out in an instant. Ming Ri's speed was very fast. Moreover, in the process of rushing out, Ming Ri waved his hands repeatedly, and suddenly a black dragon phantom emerged from behind him. So strong. Feeling the terrifying energy contained in the black dragon phantom, Zhao Rui's face became a little ugly. Her idea was similar to that of Ningyu. She thought that Ming Ri, who did not use the Shen immortal law, was not strong. But now, Zhao Rui changed her mind. Strong. Ming Ri was very strong. At least at this time, Ming Ri was a little stronger than when he fought with the 2 of them just now. This time, you're still alive. Not only Zhao Rui, but even Jinhua had an evil smile on his face. At this time, Jinhua was proud of his wit. In Jinhua's view, if he hadn't said what he said before, Ningyu was likely to use a powerful trump card, and Ningyu's powerful trump card was very likely to be the Shen Immortal Law. Once Ningyu used the Shen Immortal Law, then he would definitely be able to block Ming Ri's attack. Now that Ningyu could not use the Shen Immortal Law, it meant that it was difficult for Ningyu to block Ming Ri's move. Let's try with the Red Demon Sword first. Although Ningyu's face was also very dignified, he still chose to use the Red Demon Sword, and did not want to expose the power of the origin-creating divine staff too early. The Red Demon Sword in his hand waved, and in an instant, a sword light separated from the Red Demon Sword. Hua! The sword ray, which was as thick as a waist, drew an arc in the air, and then directly collided with the Black Dragon shadow. Catcher! A crisp sound rang out as the two collided. Then, the sword light and the Black Dragon shadow both disappeared from the world. Seeing that Ningyu had actually blocked his first move, Ming Ri raised his eyebrows, faintly feeling a little incredulous. One should know that the Black Dragon shadow that he displayed could even kill a late Heavenly Immortal expert. Ningyu's cultivation base was not even at the Heavenly Immortal stage. And yet, he could stop the semi-transparent silhouette of a black dragon. This was enough to show how powerful Ningyu was. Taking a deep breath, Ming Ri secretly became cautious. He'd already utilized a move in the agreement of 3 moves, and if he was unable to defeat Ningyu in the next 2 moves, then it was very likely that his mysterious immortal laws would be seized away by Ningyu. Moreover, his goal was not to defeat Ningyu, but to kill Ningyu. Take another move from me, Flying Dragon Dance. Taking a deep breath, Ming Ri immediately poured all the immortal qi in his body into his fist, and then he flew out. Ming Ri's intention was already very clear. He wanted to decide the outcome of the battle with Ningyu in the second move. His going all out. Looking at Ming Ri, who was constantly approaching him, Ningyu's face was slightly dignified. However, Ningyu did not feel flustered because of this. Instead, he was a little excited. He had been waiting for this moment for a long time. With a thought, the origin-creating divine stick appeared in his hand. Let me show you the power of the origin-creating divine stick. Ningyu glanced at Jinhua and the demonic snake immortal next to him, and immediately injected all the immortal qi in his body into the origin-creating divine stick. Moreover, in order to defeat and even kill Ming Ri with one move, Ningyu even did not hesitate to empty the immortal qi of the human demon and Ninglu in his storage ring. When fighting with Jinhua just now, Ningyu had already extracted most of the immortal qi of the human demon and the others. Now he extracted their immortal qi, which directly caused them to be in a state of weakness. It could be said that at this time, any human immortal realm warrior could easily kill the human demon and Ninglu. This Ningyu is too arrogant, isn't he? In the Mist Spirit realm, Lord Ming Ri used the Flying Dragon Wild Dance to kill several late-stage fairy immortal warriors. Ningyu is simply courting death. Congratulations to Lord Ming Ri for winning a mysterious immortal method. What? Many late-stage fairy immortal warriors in the Mist Spirit realm were talking about it. However, before the last warrior's words fell, his mouth was slightly open, and his face was full of disbelief. Crack! In mid-air, the origin-creating divine stick in Ningyu's hand had already touched Ming Ri's fist. Ah! Following that, an extremely crisp sound, accompanied by a miserable shriek that sounded like a pig being slaughtered, resounded in the area. The third move, let me do it. How could Ningyu give Ming Ri a chance? He held the origin-creating divine stick in his hand and chased after Ming Ri. In an instant, he came to Ming Ri. Come back. Seeing Ningyu appear in front of him, Ming Ri's face changed dramatically, and he hurriedly raised his head and shouted. Buzz! Buzz! As Ming Ri shouted, the golden Shen immortal law in Zhao Rui's hand suddenly buzzed and trembled. Obviously, Ming Ri felt that he could not withstand the third move, and wanted to recall his Shen immortal law and use it to fight against Ningyu. Humph! However, how could Zhao Rui give Ming Ri a chance? As if she had expected that Ming Ri would do this, Zhao Rui snorted coldly and immediately used her purple Shen immortal law to firmly entangle Ming Ri's golden Shen immortal law. Judging from the power of the Shen immortal laws of both sides, Zhao Rui's purple Shen immortal law was obviously stronger than Ming Ri's golden Shen immortal law. After all, Zhao Rui came from the Central Divine Dynasty, while Ming Ri was just from an ordinary medium-sized territory. What are you two doing? Come and save me. Seeing that he could not recall the Golden Shen Immortal Law in a short time, Ming Ri hurriedly contacted Jinhua and Magic Snake Immortal, wanting to ask them to help him. However, at this moment, Jinhua and Magic Snake Immortal flinched. Although they had joined forces with Ming Ri, their alliance was only temporary. Once they entered the path to heaven, the alliance between them would inevitably break. Instead of helping Ming Ri at this time, it was better to give Zhao Rui face and let Ming Ri fend for himself. Thinking of this, Jinhua and Magic Snake Immortal looked at each other, and then immediately said to Ming Ri, "There is still one last move between you and Ningyu. Wait until the last move is over." You. Hearing the indifferent words of Jinhua and Magic Snake Immortal, Ming Ri's eyes widened. He could not wait to go up and teach Jinhua and Magic Snake Immortal a lesson and kill them, but Ming Ri had not lost his mind at this moment. Chapter 2056. You dare to be distracted while fighting with me, I am afraid you have lost your mind. Seeing that Ming Ri was a little stunned, Ningyu raised the corner of his mouth and then smashed down with the origin-creating divine stick in his hand. Kai Kai. At this moment, the void was broken and there was a sizzling sound. Damn it! Looking at the origin-creating divine stick that was constantly smashing towards him, Ming Ri's face was gloomy to the extreme, and he hurriedly reached out to resist. Crack! However, with the strength of Ming Ri's body, how could he resist the attack of the origin-creating divine stick? An extremely crisp sound resounded in this area. Ah ah ah! A hysterical scream came out of Ming Ri's mouth. Puff! Dark red blood spurted out, and Ming Ri's aura dropped sharply. In a short period of time, Ming Ri's aura had dropped to the freezing point. At this time, even if an ordinary creation realm martial artist appeared, he could easily kill Ming Ri. What a pity! Ningyu could not help but feel a little regretful that the third move did not kill Ming Ri. His agreement with Ming Ri was 3 moves. Now that he could not kill Ming Ri in 3 moves, he naturally would not use the 4th move. It was not that Ningyu was stupid, but Jinhua and Demonic Snake Immortal swept together and landed beside Ming Ri. Ningyu did not want to fight with Jinhua and Demonic Snake Immortal at this time, so he chose to stop and let Ming Ri live. Here you go. Zhao Rui flicked her wrist and threw the Golden Shen Immortal Law to Ningyu. Zhao Rui did not want to snatch the Shen Immortal Law that belonged to Ningyu. Since Ningyu won the bet with Ming Ri, the Shen Immortal Law that Ming Ri left with her naturally belonged to Ningyu. Thank you. Ningyu did not stand on ceremony with Zhao Rui. He took the Golden Shen Immortal Law, directly activated the origin-creating divine stick, and threw it inside. Although the origin-creating divine stick could devour everything, for some reason, the origin-creating divine stick could not devour the Shen Immortal Law. According to Ningyu's guess, the essence creation divine rod could only unleash the power of a late-stage heaven immortal for the time being. Once it was able to exert the might of a mysterious immortal, then even if it was a mysterious immortal law, it would still be able to devour it. Moreover, by placing the Shen Immortal Laws in the essence creation divine rod, not only could he conceal his aura, but he could also use the special properties of the essence creation divine rod to remove the imprint in the Shen Immortal Laws. Even a fool could guess that Ming Ri must have left a mark in the Golden Shen Immortal Law. If he was unable to remove the mark, then Ningyu would be unable to control the profound immortal laws. Humph. So what if you obtained my mysterious immortal law? With the help of Jinhua and Demonic Snake Immortal, Ming Ri's aura recovered a little. Seeing that Ningyu accepted his Golden Shen Immortal Law, Ming Ri snorted coldly and said fiercely, "My Shen Immortal Law is mine after all." You can't. What? However, the words in Ming Ri's mouth stopped abruptly as if he had discovered something frightening. His mouth was slightly open and his face was full of confusion. Poochie. The next moment, Ming Ri spat out a mouthful of red blood again, and his face became livid. I'm sorry to disappoint you. Ningyu raised the essence creation divine rod in his hand and said, just now, your Shen Immortal Law belongs to me now. Ka. Ming Ri's face was not only livid, but even his teeth were chattering. Fear, anger, loss, all kinds of emotions appeared on Ming Ri's face. Without the Golden Xian Immortal Law, Ming Ri's combat effectiveness was reduced by at least half. It could be said that at this time, Ming Ri had instantly fallen from the top ranks to the middle ranks. Although relying on his own strength, Ming Ri could still easily kill a late-stage fairy immortal martial artist. He would be at a complete disadvantage against experts like Jin Hua and demonic snake immortal. On the other hand, Ning Yu. After swallowing and refining Ming Ri's Golden Xian Immortal Law, his comprehensive strength had a qualitative breakthrough. Previously, with Ning Yu's strength, if he used all his trump cards, no one would be a match for him unless he met a peak heaven immortal expert. Of course, the premise was that the other party had no Xian Immortal Law. Excluding the Xian Immortal Law, Ning Yu's comprehensive strength could only compete with a peak fairy immortal martial artist. Although he was strong, he was not the strongest. But now, Ning Yu had a total of 2 Xian Immortal Laws. Even if he encountered a peak fairy immortal martial artist, he could compete with him. After all, even Jin Hua and demonic snake immortal only had 1 Xian Immortal Law. Ming Ri, although Ning Yu defeated you, his strength at this time must have been affected. Jin Hua and demonic snake immortal looked at each other, and immediately said to Ming Ri, "Why don't the two of us stop Zhao Rui and the others for you, and you take the many late-stage fairy immortal experts of Mist Spirit Realm to kill Ning Yu?" Swish. Hearing Jin Hua and demonic snake immortal's words, to be honest, Ming Ri was very tempted. He had just experienced a great battle, and Ning Yu had painstakingly removed the imprint in his Xian Immortal Law. If nothing unexpected happened, even if Ning Yu was not in his weakest state, he would not be able to exert his peak strength. Perhaps this was the best time to kill Ning Yu. But Ming Ri was worried. If Ning Yu used the Xian Immortal Law, what should he do? As if he had guessed what Ming Ri was thinking, Jin Hua said in a deep voice, "What are you afraid of? Even if you were at your peak, it would take a lot of effort to activate the Xian Immortal Law, let alone Ning Yu who is in a weak state." Okay. Jin Hua's persuasion was the last straw that broke the camel's back. Ming Ri nodded heavily, and immediately shouted to the late-stage fairy immortal experts behind him, "Let's go together. Whoever can take down Ning Yu's head, I will be responsible for his safety in the path to heaven." Clatter. Ming Ri's promise played a big role. After all, everyone who could come here knew that the competition on the path to heaven was fierce. If they could attach themselves to an expert, they could increase their chances of survival. For Ming Ri's promise, even if everyone knew that the road ahead was very dangerous, they still resolutely rushed out. "When I'm sleepy, someone sends me a pillow." Ning Yu twisted his neck. Instead of showing a trace of worry on his face, he was very excited. He was worried about how to unseal the origin-creating divine staff and let it exert 50% of its power, and now someone came to die. According to Ning Yu's guess, as long as the origin-creating divine staff devoured the experts, including Ming Ri, there would be a 99% chance of exerting 50% of its power. And 50% of the power of the origin-creating divine staff was comparable to a Xian Immortal Law. Once the origin-creating divine staff could exert 50% of its power, then Ning Yu would have 3 Xian Immortal Laws. With 3 Xian Immortal Laws, in the path to heaven, Ning Yu could do whatever he wanted. You're about to die, but you still dare to be stubborn. Chapter 2057. To be honest, Ming Ri was not particularly optimistic about the attack this time. But he had been forced to a dead end. He could only attack desperately and try to kill Ning Yu. As long as he could kill Ning Yu, he could take back the profound immortal nomological laws. It should be known that without the profound immortal nomological laws, it was completely difficult to move forward on the path to heaven. Therefore, for the sake of the profound immortal laws, in order to survive, Ming Ri must attack Ning Yu. Kill. Ning Yu ignored the opposition of the Red Devil and directly threw him into the storage ring. Instead, he held the origin-creating divine staff alone and rushed into the crowd. The Red Devil was very clear in his heart. With Ning Yu's current combat effectiveness, this battle would definitely be one-sided. Since it was a one-sided battle, How could he not want to get involved? However, Ningyu saw through his thoughts and told him to stay in the storage ring obediently. Ningyu didn't want the fat meat in his mouth to be taken away by the Red Devil. After all, this fat meat was prepared by him for the origin-creating divine staff. Puff, puff, puff. In just one encounter, Ningyu held the origin-creating divine staff in his hand and killed 3 heaven immortal late-stage martial artists. Without a doubt. The primordial chi in the bodies of these 3 heaven immortal late-stage martial artists were all devoured by the origin-creating divine staff. After devouring 3 heaven immortal late-stage martial artists, the power that the origin-creating divine staff could exert had been enhanced a little. If the battle continued for a long time, Ningyu could easily kill all the martial artists, including Ming Ri. What a waste! Jin Hua's attention was fixed on Zhao Rui while paying attention to the battlefield on Ming Ri's side. When he saw that Ming Ri and the others were at a disadvantage, Jin Hua couldn't help but curse. However, cursing aside, Jin Hua's eyes turned, secretly thinking of countermeasures. Jin Hua was very clear. Ming Ri couldn't be killed. At least, Ming Ri couldn't be killed now. He still had a use for Ming Ri. I have to find a way to help Ming Ri. Jin Hua quietly transmitted his voice to Snake Immortal. I am responsible for stopping Zhao Rui. You go and help Ming Ri secretly. Don't let Ningyu kill Ming Ri. If it doesn't work, you can capture Ningyu's friends. A friend of Ningyu? Immortal Fiend Snake glanced at Immortal Hongling and Immortal Five Fingers, then nodded thoughtfully. At this time, Immortal Devil Snake agreed with Jin Hua. Although Ming Ri didn't have the Shen Immortal Law, his body was still there, and his body was very hard. Be it Jin Hua or Fiend Snake Immortal, both of them wanted a peak late-stage Sky Immortal body that was just a step away from peak Sky Immortal. Whoosh! Immortal Snake was not an indecisive person. She made a prompt decision and dashed toward Immortal Hongling with her walking stick in her hand. The reason why Immortal Devil Snake chose Immortal Hongling instead of Immortal Five Fingers was because, in her opinion, Immortal Hongling had the closest relationship with Ningyu. If she attacked Immortal Hongling, it would make Ningyu hesitate and panic a little. And Ningyu's panic would give Ming Ri enough opportunities. Good idea. In fact, as soon as Immortal Devil Snake made her move, Ningyu noticed it. However, even if Immortal Devil Snake launched a powerful attack on Immortal Hongling, Ningyu remained indifferent. There was no other reason. Ningyu was worried that he couldn't force Immortal Hongling to use her trump card. At this time, Immortal Devil Snake launched an attack on Immortal Hongling, which saved him a lot of trouble. So troublesome. Immortal Hongling looked at Immortal Devil Snake, who kept rushing toward her, and her face instantly turned cold. With both feet on the ground, Immortal Hongling didn't retreat, but instead advanced toward Immortal Devil Snake, wanting to fight head-on with him. Immortal Hongling's actions left Immortal Fiend Snake scratching his head in confusion. She really couldn't understand where Immortal Hongling had gotten the courage to attack her. Has she lost her mind? Immortal Devil Snake frowned slightly, feeling that Immortal Hongling had most likely lost her mind. I'm Immortal Hongling. However, Immortal Devil Snake soon realized that she was wrong, and very wrong. Immortal Hongling wasn't crazy, but she really had the strength to fight her. Swoosh! A cold black light suddenly shot out from Immortal Hongling's body and attacked her at an extremely terrifying speed. Mysterious Immortal Law. This black cold light was a genuine mysterious immortal law. Who are you? Why do you have mysterious immortal law? Immortal Devil Snake's face instantly turned ugly. If she didn't know about the enmity between Jin Hua and Ningyu, she would even suspect that Jin Hua and Ningyu were working together. Go! Since Immortal Hongling had used her mysterious immortal law, Immortal Devil Snake had no choice but to use his own. Swoosh! Immortal Devil Snake's mysterious immortal law was blue. Kai! 2 mysterious immortal laws, one black and one black, began to fight in midair. It was obvious that both Immortal Devil Snake and Immortal Hongling were testing each other. However, neither of them used their killing moves. Immortal Devil Snake didn't use her full strength because she didn't want Jin Hua to reap the benefits. Immortal Hongling didn't use her full strength because she felt that there was no need to fight to the death with Immortal Devil Snake. Her task was to protect herself for the time being. Puff, puff. While Immortal Hongling and Immortal Devil Snake were in a deadlock, the battle on the other side was coming to an end. In Ningyu's hands, the essence-creating divine staff was like a divine weapon. Every swing of the staff killed a late-stage sky immortal. In a short period of time, most of the late-stage heaven immortals in the mist spirit realm had been killed by Ningyu. At this time, including Ming Ri, there were only 3 martial artists in the entire mist spirit realm. Behind Ming Ri, the 2 late-stage sky immortals were shivering and didn't even dare to attack again. Shocking. Ningyu killed his companion in a few moves, which shocked the 2 late-stage sky immortals. Deep in their hearts, they even had the mentality that Ningyu was invincible. Go! Ming Ri kicked out twice in a row, sending the 2 martial artists to Ningyu. Crack! Crack! Ningyu naturally wouldn't let go of the fat meat flying toward him. He controlled the essence-creating divine staff and smashed it on the heads of the 2 martial artists. In an instant, the 2 martial artists were killed and the energy in their bodies was devoured. Run! Ming Ri was not an indecisive person. The moment he kicked the 2 late-stage sky immortals away, he stomped on the ground and quickly retreated backward. Since he was invincible, why stay and die in vain? Therefore, Ming Ri chose to escape. Where are you going, huh? Seeing Ming Ri escape, Ningyu just wanted to chase after him, but he stopped abruptly. Because Ningyu found that in the direction where Ming Ri escaped, the void suddenly burst, and a martial artist in purple appeared. Ningyu's perception was very strong. From this purple-clothed martial artist, he felt a familiar aura. Dan Lin. Chapter 2058. Get out of my way. Because Ming Ri was in a hurry to escape, he didn't pay attention to the elixir puppet's cultivation. Seeing someone standing in front of him, Ming Ri shouted, lifted his right foot, and kicked out fiercely. For Ming Ri, he must escape as soon as possible. Otherwise, when Ningyu caught up with him, he would only end up dead. Humph! You overestimate yourself. The elixir puppet looked at Ming Ri, who was approaching him, and immediately snorted. Immediately, he punched out fiercely with violent immortal chi. Crack! A crisp sound rang out. Ah! Immediately afterward, a scream like that of a pig being slaughtered came out of Ming Ri's mouth. Devour! The purple-robed elixir puppet didn't hold back. Instead, a terrifying devouring power emerged from his body. Before Ming Ri could react, Ming Ri was swallowed up. Hiss! From the appearance of the elixir puppet to the devouring of Ming Ri, it all happened in the blink of an eye. In the distance, Jin Hua and the demonic snake immortal both opened their mouths slightly, and their faces were full of disbelief. Although Ming Ri was seriously injured in the fight with Ningyu, he was still a martial artist at the peak of the late stage of Heaven Immortal. Now, a martial artist in purple suddenly appeared and killed Ming Ri in one move. How could they not be shocked? Dark Emperor, is this guy the elixir puppet who left a seal in your body? Ningyu's face was slightly solemn, because he felt a terrifying aura from the elixir puppet. However, even though the elixir puppet was very powerful, Ningyu still asked the Dark Emperor in the storage ring. If this elixir puppet was the person who sealed the Dark Emperor, then no matter what, Ningyu would avenge the Dark Emperor. Yes, it's him. In the storage ring, the Dark Emperor's face was livid, and he said fiercely, at that time, he forcibly sealed me despite my objection. Ningyu rolled his eyes. What do you mean by ignoring your objection? Since the elixir puppet decided to seal you, he would certainly ignore your objection. If the elixir puppet gave up as soon as someone objected, then he would probably achieve nothing. You're Ningyu. Just at that moment, the purple-clothed Dan puppet moved a few steps forward. He stared at Ningyu and said, "You don't look like anything special. Why did immortal creation choose you?" Ningyu frowned slightly but did not say anything. Back when he had killed Immortal Bloodvenom's clone, he had learned some information from Immortal Bloodvenom's memories regarding why Immortal Bloodvenom wanted to capture him. Now that the purple-robed pill puppet mentioned immortal creation, Ningyu faintly understood. As expected, He was immortal origin creation's chess piece. Although the end of the path of ingress was guarded by the elders of the various domains, as long as he revealed his identity as immortal creation's chess piece, the elders of the various domains would not dare to do anything to him. Moreover, immortal creation had left behind an origin creation hall in the Myriad Demon Ridge and an origin creation divine staff in the origin creation hall. The elders of the various domains were not stupid. You couldn't say that you were a chess piece just because you said you were. They used the origin creation divine staff to determine whether a martial artist was immortal creation's chess piece or not. Therefore, many experts wanted to kill Ning Yu and snatch the origin creation divine staff. They had killed Ning Yu to prevent him from being exposed and snatched the origin creation divine staff to confirm his identity as a chess piece. Not everyone had the right to know about this. At the very least, it was obvious from the expressions of Jin Hua and the demonic snake Immortal that they did not know about this. The reason why Immortal Bloodvenom knew about this was because he had heard about this secret in a high-level dimension. Kill yourself. If I do it, you will suffer a lot. The purple-robed elixir puppet crossed his arms and looked at Ning Yu with interest. I can guarantee that as long as you kill yourself and give me the origin creation divine staff, I will let your friends go. As he spoke, the purple-robed elixir puppet glanced at Jin Hua and the others. Ning Yu had an idea and said, "It's not impossible for me to give you the origin-creating divine staff, but you have to do me a favor. I hate it when people negotiate with me." The purple-robed elixir puppet frowned, but he still asked, "What favor?" "Kill them." Ning Yu pointed at Jin Hua and Demon Snake Immortal and said, "Before you came, the two of them made things difficult for me in every possible way. I almost destroyed the origin divine staff because of their harassment." Swish. The purple-robed elixir puppet's face darkened when he heard Ning Yu's words. Although the purple-robed elixir puppet knew that Ning Yu was using him as a tool, he was still furious. The reason he could leave the path of ingress alive was because of the origin creation divine staff. If Ning Yu really destroyed the origin creation divine staff, everyone on the path of ingress, including him, would die. "I will take care of them for you." The purple-robed elixir puppet pondered for a moment, then nodded and said to Ning Yu, "I hope you will keep your promise later." As soon as the word promise fell, the purple-robed elixir puppet's figure flashed, tearing through the void and appearing in front of the demonic snake Immortal. Whoosh! The purple-robed elixir puppet clenched his right fist and punched out. "Damn it!" The demonic snake Immortal couldn't help but curse when he saw that Ning Yu had convinced the purple-robed elixir puppet with just a few words. But the demonic snake Immortal didn't dare to be careless. If he guessed correctly, the purple-robed elixir puppet's real cultivation had broken through the limits of a late-stage Sky Immortal and reached the peak of a Sky Immortal. If he didn't use his abstruse immortal law, he definitely wouldn't be a match for the purple-robed elixir puppet. "Go." With a low roar, the demonic snake Immortal took out the blue profound immortal law that he carried with him, wanting to block the purple-robed elixir puppet's fatal attack. Child's play. However, in the face of the blue profound immortal law that the demonic snake Immortal had taken out, the corners of the purple-robed elixir puppet's mouth curled up. Then, he did something that shocked the demonic snake Immortal. The purple-robed pill puppet opened its mouth and swallowed the demonic snake Immortal's blue profound immortal law in front of everyone. Hiss. The purple-robed elixir puppet's action made not only the demonic snake Immortal, but also Ning Yu, Zhao Rui, and the others gape in shock. Swallowing the profound immortal law. This level of strength had already exceeded the scope of a Sky Immortal. Even some weak profound immortals might not be able to swallow the profound immortal law, but they had to slowly refine it. Ning Yu had relied on the origin creation divine staff to refine the profound immortal law of Nether Sunday, otherwise, it would have been difficult for him to refine it in a short time. But now, the purple-robed elixir puppet had only used a few seconds to swallow and refine a profound immortal law. "My profound immortal law." After a short silence, the demonic snake Immortal let out a hysterical roar. The demonic snake Immortal could almost predict it. She, who had lost the profound immortal law, would not have a better ending than Nether Sunday. Chapter 2059. You're about to lose your life, yet you're still thinking about the Shen immortal law. The pill puppet was expressionless. After devouring demonic snake immortal's Shen immortal law, he immediately rushed out. At the same time, a powerful devouring power emerged from his body and attacked demonic snake immortal. Jinhua, why aren't you coming over to help? Demonic snake immortal wasn't stupid. He wouldn't fight pill puppet by himself. Seeing that the purple-robed pill puppet's devouring power was about to reach him, the demonic snake immortal immediately shouted at Jinhua, Ningyu doesn't just want me dead. If I die, you won't have an easy time either. Damn it. Jinhua's face was gloomy. How could he not know that demonic snake immortal was right? However, even if he went over to help demonic snake immortal would definitely be killed. Rather than foolishly helping demonic snake immortal, he might as well try to persuade Zhao Rui to contact Ningyu through her and finally get Ningyu to let him go. No matter how he looked at it, the second method was much better than the first. Jinhua, even if I die, I won't. Fut. Demonic snake immortal said coldly when he saw Jinhua hesitating. However, demonic snake immortal's voice came to an abrupt halt halfway through his sentence. Dark red blood spurted out of demonic snake immortal's mouth. At the same time, his body quickly shriveled up. Ding. Not long after, demonic snake immortal turned into a piece of skin. The walking stick in his hand fell heavily on the ground, making a crisp sound. There's still one more. Ningyu shrugged at Jinhua and gestured for Pill Puppet to act quickly. In order to get Pill Puppet to help him, Ningyu directly took out the Origin Creation Divine Staff and Shen Immortal Law and let them get close to the Origin Creation Divine Staff. Ningyu's intention was clear. As long as Pill Puppet didn't kill Jinhua, he would use Shen Immortal Law to destroy the Origin Creation Divine Staff. Alright. Although Pill Puppet was furious, he had to do as he was told. At this moment, the purple-robed Dan Puppet hated the person who told Ningyu. The purple-robed Pill Puppet knew very well that when Immortal Essence Creation gave the Essence Creation Divine Staff to Ningyu, he would never tell Ningyu that he was just a pawn. Immortal Origin Creation hadn't told him, but Ningyu knew. Then there were only two possibilities. First, Ningyu had guessed it, which was less likely. Secondly, someone told Ningyu. This possibility was extremely high. Zhao Rui, save me. Seeing the purple-robed Pill Puppet charge at him, Jinhua's expression changed greatly as he hurriedly shouted at Zhao Rui. Zhao Rui looked at Jinhua, then looked at Ningyu, and then chose to remain silent. It was unwise to offend Ningyu for Jinhua. Moreover, what Zhao Rui needed to do now was not to help Jinhua, but how to protect herself. What the hell is going on? Zhao Rui turned around and looked at Ningyu. Ningyu did not answer Zhao Rui. Instead, he asked, when we reach the end of the path to heaven, are you confident that you can leave? In other words, you will be able to avoid the experts of the middle-sized dominions. I'm 50% sure. Although she didn't know why Ningyu asked, Zhao Rui still answered honestly. I am 100% confident that I can leave. Ningyu smiled bitterly. He had a bitter expression on his face. He was not only excited about leaving the path to heaven safely, but also sad about being chosen as a pawn by Immortal Essence Creation. There was no free lunch in the world. To be honest, when Immortal Essence Creation helped Ningyu had already vaguely guessed something. It was just that Ningyu had obtained the Essence Creation Divine Staff from his mother, Mu Yunshan. Ningyu guessed that Immortal Essence Creation was related to the Supreme Nine Purities Temple, but he did not think in that direction. After Ningyu devoured Immortal Blood Poison's clone, Ningyu became more and more worried. It was only when the purple-robed Pill Puppet appeared that Ningyu was completely sure of his guess, 100% confident. Zhao Rui's mouth opened slightly in shock. At the end of the path to heaven, there might even be a half-step profound immortal or a true profound immortal expert. Zhao Rui was very puzzled when Ningyu said that he was 100% confident that he could leave. Fut. At that moment, the sound of blood spurting came from afar. It was obvious that the purple-robed Pill Puppet had finished off Jinhua and devoured him. Can you give me the Essence Creation Divine Staff now? The purple-robed Pill Puppet's figure flashed and instantly appeared in front of Ningyu. If you keep your promise, I will let you live. Otherwise, I will kill. Whoosh. The purple-robed pill puppets in different words suddenly came to a halt. There was no other reason. In an area far away, the void suddenly split open and a group of martial artists appeared. These martial artists were all late-stage heaven immortals. The white-robed martial artist who led the group was a peak late-stage heaven immortal. He had more points than Fiend Snake Immortal and Jin Hua. Crack. Suddenly, the void on the other side also split open and 3 martial artists slowly walked out of the void. These 3 martial artists were similar to the white-robed martial artist, peak late-stage heaven immortal. Boom. At the same time, the void not far from Ningyu's group also exploded and a martial artist wearing a bamboo hat appeared. Although the bamboo hat martial artist was also a peak late-stage heaven immortal, Ningyu and the others could feel that the bamboo hat martial artist was only slightly weaker than the purple-robed pill puppet. In other words, the purple-robed pill puppet couldn't kill the bamboo hat martial artist in a short time. In fact, if the bamboo hat martial artist had other trump cards, the purple-robed pill puppet might lose. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. The entire area instantly became lively after these 3 groups of people appeared. In the next few minutes, a martial artist would appear almost every second. The cultivation level of these martial artists wasn't weak. The weakest among them was at the late heaven immortal realm. There were even a few martial artists who were the same cultivation as the purple-robed pill puppet, peak heaven immortal. Damn it! The sudden appearance of so many martial artists made the purple-robed pill puppet's face darken to the extreme. He was just about to get the origin-creating divine staff when something unexpected happened. The purple-robed pill puppet could tell that most of the martial artists who appeared should know that Ningyu was a pawn of the origin-creating immortal. Since they knew that Ningyu was a pawn, they would try to snatch the origin-creating divine staff. Although the purple-robed pill puppet was very powerful, he still knew his limits. He knew that he couldn't snatch the origin-creating divine staff with his current strength. Even if Ningyu gave him the origin-creating divine staff, he wouldn't be able to protect it. Instead of that, he might as well let Ningyu hold the origin-creating divine staff and wait until they entered the path to heaven. I'll leave the origin-creating divine staff with you for now. With that thought, the purple-robed pill puppet sent a soul message to Ningyu. When we enter the path to heaven, I'll find a way to contact you. Give me the origin-creating divine staff then. You want to contact me through this thing that the Dark Emperor has, right? Ningyu flicked his wrist and took out a fingernail-sized crystal ball from his storage ring. Chapter 2060. How could it be in your hands? Looking at the crystal ball in Ningyu's hand, the elixir puppet's pupils constricted and his face was full of horror. Before Ningyu took out the crystal ball, the purple-robed elixir puppet could still appear calm. However, after Ningyu took out the crystal ball, the purple-robed elixir puppet lost his composure. Without the crystal ball, the elixir puppet couldn't know where the Dark Emperor was. If he didn't know where the Dark Emperor was, it meant that he didn't know where Ningyu was. How vast was the path to heaven? Once he lost Ningyu's location, it would be even more difficult to find Ningyu. Nothing is impossible. Ningyu shrugged and said, since you don't want the origin divine staff now, I won't give it to you. But I still want to thank you for killing Devil Snake Immortal and Jin Hua for me. Crack, crack, crack. Hearing Ningyu's words and seeing Ningyu's expression, the elixir puppet gnashed his teeth in anger. However, even though he was angry, he still didn't act rashly. Because he knew very well that he could no longer be called the absolute overlord in this area. According to the elixir puppet's observation, there were at least 3 or 4 auras around him that he was afraid of. Whoosh! All of a sudden, the void cracked again and a martial artist who was the same age as Ningyu appeared from the void. Hiss! When the young cultivator appeared, everyone in front of the path to heaven sucked in a breath of cold air. Strong. Very strong. He was extremely strong. Although the young martial artist's cultivation was the same as the elixir puppets, they were both at the peak of heaven immortal. But relatively speaking, 2 elixir puppets might not be a match for this young martial artist. People from the Wuheng cave. Seeing the young martial artist, Zhao Rui's face turned slightly serious and she said in a deep voice, I didn't expect people from the Wuheng cave to come. This is going to be a little troublesome. Is the Wuheng cave stronger than the central god dynasty? Ningyu was puzzled and asked. In Ningyu's opinion, the central divine dynasty was a behemoth that ruled an upper-class territory. The sacred divine palace, the primeval demon sect, the ancient demon sect, and the fallen spirit sect were not even worthy of carrying its shoes. The fact that the Wuheng cave could make Zhao Rui look so serious showed that it was a powerful force that even the central divine dynasty didn't want to provoke in a higher plane. Just like our central divine dynasty, the everlasting cave is located in an upper-class territory. Taking a deep breath, Zhao Rui explained, but relatively speaking, there are many geniuses in the Wuheng cave. Even the geniuses of the two central celestial dynasties are not as many as in the Wuheng cave. The Wuheng cave has a unique method of nurturing geniuses. They have people in almost every lower plane. Ningyu nodded, showing that he understood this very well. When he was still a Sky Supreme, he had mistakenly entered the everlasting cave. He met Zhao Rui's brother, Zhao Hang, in the Wuheng cave. Strictly speaking, Ningyu was also selected by the Wuheng cave, but Ningyu left the Wuheng cave with the help of Zhao Hang and others. Otherwise, Ningyu would have been taken to a higher plane by the people of the Wuheng cave to accept the next round of assessment. You are Ningyu? After the young warrior of the Wuheng cave appeared, his eyes first swept across the faces of the crowd, and then fell on Ningyu. Ningyu frowned slightly. He didn't like the attitude of the man from the Wuheng cave very much. But for the sake of the overall situation, Ningyu didn't act rashly. For him, as long as he entered the path to heaven, the danger of these people in front of him would be greatly reduced. After all, the path to heaven was extremely dangerous, and it was possible that even a peak sky immortal warrior would die in it. Quite a fierce temperament. The corners of the young warrior's mouth curled up, and he said disdainfully, since you are chosen by the Wuheng cave, it means that you are a person of the Wuheng cave in life, and a ghost of the Wuheng cave in death. Come over now, open your mind and let me control it. Maybe if I'm in a good mood, I can forgive your sins. Are you an idiot? Ningyu looked at the young warrior like he was looking at a fool, and said, I don't even know what your name is. You say you are a person of the Wuheng cave. I also say I'm the cave master of the Wuheng cave. I ask you to open your mind and let me control it. Are you willing? Courting death. The young warrior's face instantly turned cold, and he immediately displayed his aura, frantically pressing towards Ningyu. Rumble. A terrifying aura sprang out from the young warrior, and in an instant, it arrived in front of Ningyu. Facing the terrifying aura rushing towards him, Ningyu not only did not feel nervous, but he shrugged his shoulders and said, I have a special characteristic, that is, I can't stand others threatening me. Once someone threatens me, I will blow myself up. As he spoke, Ningyu's body swelled up, and he looked like he was about to blow himself up. At the same time, Ningyu also took out the origin-creating divine stick and placed it in front of him. Wait. We can talk things over. There's no need to kill me. Yes, if there's anything, let's sit down and talk it over. It's better to squash enmity than keep it alive. Seeing that Ningyu wanted to blow himself up, the surrounding warriors could not sit still. It did not matter if Ningyu blew himself up, they did not care at all. What they cared about was whether Ningyu's explosion would destroy the origin-creating divine stick. 80 to 90% of the warriors who could come here knew the importance of the origin-creating divine stick. Without the origin-creating divine stick, the probability of them safely leaving the path to heaven was only 50% at most, or even less. Under this premise, whoever dared to destroy the origin-creating divine stick would become the enemy of many warriors. Whoosh! Even the many warriors present, including the purple-clothed Dan puppet, joined forces to test the pressure on the young warriors of the Wuheng cave. Being tested by so many people, even the young warriors of the Wuheng cave, Mo Ran was very angry, but he had to withdraw his aura. Although Mo Ran was very strong, no matter how strong he was, he could not be the enemy of so many people at the same time. Very good. Ningyu put away the origin-creating divine stick, and his swollen body gradually returned to normal. I suggest that we attack together and find a way to break the bronze gate first. Seeing Mo Rant's livid face, the martial artist in the bamboo hat pointed to the bronze gate and said, "It's meaningless for us to delay here. The sooner we break the bronze gate, the sooner we can enter the path to heaven." I agree. Let's break the bronze gate first. If you have any grudges, let's solve them in the path to heaven. Yes, the most urgent task is to break the bronze gate first. Everything else has to be put aside. Someone took the lead, and the rest of the warriors spoke up one after another. For a moment, Mo Ran became a marginal figure from the focus of everyone's attention. Many martialists had formed an alliance, and this alliance just happened to exclude Mo Ran from it. How could Mo Ran not know why everyone was excluding him? Chapter 2061. Swish. Mo Rant's words made everyone, including the bamboo hat cultivator, grimace. Because so long as one wasn't an idiot, one would be able to tell that Mo Ran was obviously targeting Ningyu. The goal of this temporary alliance was to help Ningyu and prevent Ningyu from being oppressed by Mo Ran. Now, not only did Mo Ran not restrain himself, he even became even more aggressive, causing everyone's expressions to become extremely unsightly. I don't care. Whether or not I can enter the path to the heavens has nothing to do with me. Ningyu naturally knew that Mo Ran was targeting him. He shrugged and said indifferently, "Since you want to enter the path to the heavens, then go ahead and break open the bronze doors." As he spoke, Ningyu moved his feet and retreated to the back. In the blink of an eye, he retreated to the back. Behind Ningyu, Immortal Hongling and Immortal Five Fingers did not remain idle. They chased after Mo Ran. Damn it! Mo Rant's face turned green with anger when he saw Ningyu's actions. His original intention had been to cause trouble for Ningyu. But now, not only had he failed, but Ningyu had even managed to corner him. If Ningyu wasn't going to the path to the heavens, what was the point of them going? Humph! Mo Ran coldly snorted, then took a step forward. His fist brought along a violent Yuan Qi gale, and ruthlessly smashed towards the bronze door. Swish! However, as Mo Ran advanced, an extremely well-concealed cold light suddenly shot out of his body and stealthily approached Ningyu. This cold light was very well concealed, so well hidden that no one noticed it. Even Ningyu didn't notice the cold light that was coming at him at the first moment. However, even though Ningyu hadn't noticed it, the origin-creating divine staff on him gave him a hint. Buzz. The origin-creating divine staff buzzed continuously and transmitted a message into Ningyu's mind. Swish. The message from the essence creation divine rod made Ningyu's heart skip a beat. He hurriedly used his perception to observe his surroundings. Although Ningyu was very anxious, he did not block Mo Rant's attack with great fanfare in order not to alert the enemy. Instead, he decided to observe first. As expected, almost in an instant, a cold glint attached to the corner of Ningyu's clothes. A cold smile appeared at the corner of Ningyu's mouth before he returned to normal. Since he had discovered the cold light that Mo Ran had left on his body, the next step would be easy. As long as he could get rid of the cold light that Mo Ran had left behind after entering the path to heaven, no matter how powerful Mo Ran was, he would not be able to discover his tracks. Rumble. At this moment. In the distance, the bamboo hat martial artist, the violet-robed pill puppet, and even Zhao Rui were unleashing powerful attacks at the bronze gate. In an instant, all sorts of spells and martial techniques were hurled at the bronze door. Catcher. Under the combined attacks of the crowd, the bronze door gradually began to crack. Let's keep it up. Mo Ran rejoiced at the sight of the cracks on the bronze door, and he hurriedly said, "In another 5 minutes, the bronze door will be broken." Rumble. It seemed that Mo Rant's words had been effective. Everyone in the area was attacking with all their might. How much do you know about the path to heaven? As everyone was attacking the bronze door, Ningyu suddenly turned to Immortal Hongling and asked, "I hope that you are not lying to me. Tell me everything you know." Immortal Hongling's heart thumped when she heard Ningyu's words. Immortal Hongling was well aware that, despite Ningyu's calm tone, Ningyu was already angry. After all, she had not told Ningyu about the path to heaven at the very beginning. She had only told him about the path to heaven. Under such circumstances, Even if she was in his shoes, she would probably be very angry. To be honest, the fact that Ningyu could remain calm until now was a little beyond Immortal Hongling's expectations. Taking a deep breath, Immortal Hongling said, "The path to heaven is extremely dangerous. There might even be demonic beasts at the half-step abstruse immortal level." Half-step abstruse immortal? Ningyu's expression could not help but turn grave. He knew that at the end of the path to heaven, there would be demonic beasts at the half-step abstruse immortal level. He had not expected that there would be demonic beasts at the half-step abstruse immortal level on the path to heaven. He now had 2 abstruse immortal laws, and after devouring many late-stage heaven immortals in the mist spirit realm, the Essence Creation Divine Staff could exert 50% of its power, which was equivalent to 1 abstruse immortal law. Even so, Ningyu still could not pose even the slightest threat to a half-step abstruse immortal expert. The Essence Creation Divine Staff with 50% of its power and 2 abstruse immortal laws could only give him a slight advantage when facing a peak heaven immortal expert. That was all. According to Ningyu's guess, if he wanted to compete with a half-step abstruse immortal expert, he had to become a real heaven immortal and pass the heaven immortal tribulation. Not only demonic beasts at the half-step abstruse immortal level, but there might even be demonic beasts at the true profound immortal level. Immortal Hongling's words were as shocking as they could get. Hiss. Hearing Immortal Hongling's words, even though Ningyu was prepared, he could not help but gasp. Demonic beasts at the half-step abstruse immortal level were already very troublesome for him, let alone demonic beasts at the profound immortal level. Of course, the more dangerous it is, the more opportunities there will be. Immortal Hongling paused for a while and then continued, "In the path to heaven, there are many graves of demonic beasts at the half-step abstruse immortal level. Almost every martial artist who enters the path to heaven can find a grave. And in every grave, there should be abstruse immortal laws. As for whether one can take away and refine the abstruse immortal laws, it all depends on one's ability." Ningyu did not doubt that Immortal Hongling would lie to him. After all, with his current strength, Immortal Hongling would not dare to lie to him. Even if Immortal Hongling concealed her strength, she would at most have 2 abstruse immortal laws. In other words, besides the black abstruse immortal law that she had just displayed, Immortal Hongling should have another abstruse immortal law. However, even if Immortal Hongling had 2 abstruse immortal laws, she was absolutely not a match for Ningyu. Ningyu could kill her at any time if he wanted to. This is an opportunity. Immortal Hongling saw that Ningyu was slightly stunned, and a thought suddenly arose in her mind. When she first met Ningyu, Ningyu's strength was much weaker than hers. The reason she did not capture Ningyu was because she did not want to expose her abstruse immortal laws too early. Who would have thought that after such a short period of time, she would no longer be able to pose even the slightest threat to Ningyu? If this trend continued, it would not be long before Ningyu's strength could easily kill a peak heaven immortal expert. Therefore, the idea that arose in Immortal Hongling's heart was not to launch a sneak attack to kill Ningyu, but to submit to Ningyu. The surrender in her heart was complete and utter, without any stray thought. Chapter 2062. Abstruse Immortal. Every time Immortal Hongling thought of these 2 words, her heart would be filled with longing. It could be said that, apart from Immortal Hongling, almost all Sky Immortals were fascinated by abstruse immortals. They were even crazy about it. This was because advancing to abstruse immortal realm wasn't just about having enough immortal chi or abstruse immortal laws. Talent, resources, opportunities, not a single one of them could be missing. Immortal Hongling was a late-stage Sky Immortal, had 2 abstruse immortal laws, and was very talented. However, Immortal Hongling knew her own limitations. She knew that her chances of breaking through to abstruse immortal were only a terrifying 5%, or even 1%, 1%, or even 1%. Faced with such a terrifying possibility, it was understandable that Immortal Hongling wanted to rely on Ningyu and take a gamble. "What's the matter?" Immortal Hongling's actions attracted Ningyu's attention. Ningyu asked, "I want to rely on you." Immortal Hongling took a deep breath, as if she had made a great decision. "I want to rely on you for real." "Oh, if you want to rely on me, Then so be it. Why do you have to be so? Ningyu stopped mid-sentence. He looked at Immortal Hongling and asked, "What did you say?" "I said I want to rely on you. I want to open my mind and let you control me completely," Immortal Hongling said solemnly as she looked at Ningyu. "Why would you have such a thought?" Ningyu was very curious. He didn't think that he had the aura of a king that made Immortal Hongling want to submit to him. Moreover, if he really had the aura of a king, Immortal Hongling would have submitted to him long ago. Why would she wait until now? Therefore, there had to be another reason why Immortal Hongling wanted to submit to him. "Your cultivation speed is really too fast. I feel that if I follow you, I will have a high chance of breaking through to abstruse Immortal." Immortal Hongling didn't hide anything and said directly, "Although I'm from the Primordial Demon Sect, and the Primordial Demon Sect has a grudge against you, I severed all ties with them the moment they sent me to the Immortal Spirit Realm because I knew that it would be very difficult for me to leave the path of ingress safely. I won't be able to become a true Xian Immortal on the path of ingress." "What do you mean?" Ningyu frowned. "Is it possible to advance on the path of ingress?" Ever since he entered the through path, Ningyu felt that he would not be able to advance any further. Because of this, he sighed with emotion. Since he was unable to advance, he could only rely on external forces to increase his strength. Origin creating divine rod, or Xian immortal law. From what Immortal Hongling had said, it seemed that he could successfully raise his cultivation level in the path to heaven. How could he not be shocked? Immortal Hongling nodded and said, "Logically speaking, you can't advance on the path of ingress. However, there is a lot of pure immortal qi left in the abodes of some powerful Xian immortal demonic beasts. You can use that immortal qi to advance smoothly. In that case, even if I advance, it won't be very useful, right?" Ningyu frowned. "I know what you're worried about. Advancing on the path to heaven can trigger a heavenly tribulation." Since she had decided to serve Ningyu, Immortal Hongling naturally told him everything she knew. She sorted out her thoughts and sent a voice transmission to Ningyu. "However, the end of the path to heaven is controlled by the experts of the various dominions, so they can see the strength of your heavenly tribulation." "They can see it too?" Ningyu fell into deep thought. To him, once he advanced to the heavenly immortal stage, his strength would improve by leaps and bounds. By then, if he met Mo Ran, Purple-Robed Dan Puppet, and the others again, he could easily fight them and even kill them. However, his heavenly tribulation was too powerful. He was afraid that he would be remembered by the experts of the various dominions. "Is there any way to block the heavenly tribulation?" Ningyu asked. Immortal Hongling thought about it and shook her head. "There's no way. Unless you suppress it and don't trigger the heavenly tribulation, they will definitely see it." At this point, Immortal Hongling paused for a moment before she lowered her voice and said, "Is your heavenly tribulation very powerful?" "Hee." Ningyu smiled and did not answer Immortal Hongling's question. What did she mean by very powerful? If nothing went wrong, Ningyu's heavenly immortal tribulation would definitely be earth-shattering and earth-shattering. After all, Ningyu's earthly immortal tribulation was already equivalent to the heavenly immortal tribulation of some experts. Although his heavenly immortal tribulation might not be as powerful as the Xian immortal tribulation, it would not be too far off. "Don't tell me it's really powerful." Immortal Hongling's mouth opened slightly when she saw Ningyu's reaction. Her face was full of surprise. However, even though she was surprised, Immortal Hongling was actually very happy. She had already decided to submit to Ningyu. The more powerful Ningyu's heavenly immortal tribulation was, the more talented Ningyu was. Moreover, with Ningyu's talent, her chances of becoming a Xian immortal in the future would naturally increase. Ningyu, the five-fingered immortal looked at Immortal Hongling, then at Ningyu. Then, he stammered, "I want to enter, speak normally." Ningyu's attitude towards Immortal Hongling was very good. Strictly speaking, there was not much enmity between him and Immortal Hongling. But the five-fingered immortal was different. The five-fingered immortal wanted to kill him. If not for the fact that he was stronger than the five-fingered immortal, the two of them would have probably exchanged fates. "I want to enter the spatial ring." The five-fingered immortal mustered up his courage. You want to enter the spatial ring? Ningyu frowned slightly. Then, he relaxed. The five-fingered immortal's cultivation was very weak. He had not even reached the late-stage heavenly immortal stage. Even a martial artist like the five-fingered immortal would be nothing more than cannon fodder on the path to heaven, let alone on the path to heaven. If not for Ningyu's help, the five-fingered immortal would have died on the path to heaven. How could he have made it here? Go in. No matter what, the five-fingered immortal was Ningyu's servant. Ningyu would not be stingy with his servants. He opened the spatial ring and let the five-fingered immortal in. Thank you, thank you. Seeing Ningyu open the storage ring, the five-fingered immortal immediately expressed his gratitude before darting into the storage ring. Crack, crack, crack. As soon as the five-fingered immortal entered the spatial ring, the bronze door nearby suddenly cracked open. Let's go. After the bronze door cracked open, Moran did not seem to care about Ningyu anymore. He was the first to rush into the path to heaven. Did the sun rise from the west? The surrounding martial artists were shocked when they saw Moran being the first to enter the path to heaven. Everyone knew that the Origin Divine Rod was the key to successfully leaving the path to heaven. Why would Moran be the first to enter? Could it be that Moran had a backup plan? Swoosh. With this thought in mind, everyone's gaze shifted to Ningyu. Chapter 2063. Hearing Ningyu's words, everyone in front of the path of ingress was taken aback. Then, their expressions turned strange. Everyone knew that it was not that Ningyu did not want to enter the path of ingress, but that he did not want to enter it with them. And he said he was a man of his word. Who are you trying to fool? However, since Ningyu had said so, no one could refute him. Suddenly, the area became so quiet that one could hear the sound of breathing. What are you all waiting for? Hurry up and enter the path of ingress. If you delay any longer, the entrance will be sealed. The first to break the silence was not the purple-robed pill puppet, nor the bamboo-hatted cultivator. Ningyu. Ningyu was the first to break the silence. I will not be entering the path of ingress. Do as you please. Don't worry about what I think. Damn it. The purple-robed pill puppet glared at Ningyu, then leaped into the air and was the second to enter the path of ingress. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Since the purple-robed pill puppet had set an example, the others did not wait any longer. They all rushed into the path of ingress. In a short period of time, there were only 3 cultivators left in front of the path of ingress. Ningyu, Immortal Hongling, and Zhao Rui. You're really not going in? Zhao Rui pointed at the path of ingress and said to Ningyu, there is only one way to enter a higher plane from the immortal spirit region. If you don't go in today, it will be 10 times more difficult for you to enter a higher plane in the future. Of course I'm going in. Ningyu shrugged and began to walk toward the entrance of the path of ingress. Wait. Seeing that Ningyu wanted to enter the path of ingress, Zhao Rui thought for a moment and seemed to have made a decision. She braced herself and said, after we enter the path of ingress, we will be transported to a random area, so I want to go with you. Go with me. Ningyu was taken aback. He did not know what Zhao Rui meant. But on second thought, Ningyu instantly understood. Zhao Rui wanted him to enter her storage ring, or rather, she wanted him to enter Zhao Rui's treasure so that he could become one with Zhao Rui and enter the path of ingress together. In this way, even if the path to heaven teleported the cultivators to a certain area, they could still be together. Go into the storage ring. Ningyu pondered for a moment and chose to let Zhao Rui enter the storage ring. After all, Zhao Rui had helped him a lot, so there was nothing wrong with letting Zhao Rui enter his storage ring. Thank you. Zhao Rui didn't argue with Ningyu. Her figure flashed, and she instantly entered the storage ring. After Zhao Rui entered the storage ring, Ningyu saw that Immortal Hongling was standing there hesitantly. Thus, he decided to let Immortal Hongling enter the storage ring with him. Anyway, his combat power wasn't weak. He had the Origin Creation Divine Staff at 50% power and 2 Xian Immortal Laws. Unless one was unlucky on the path to heaven and encountered a true half-step Profound Immortal, or even a Profound Immortal level demonic beast. Otherwise, With his strength, he wouldn't have had much of a problem in the path of ingress. Swoosh. Ning Yu wasn't an indecisive person. He closed the storage ring, his figure flashed, and he rushed straight into the path to heaven. Buzz. Not long after Ning Yu disappeared, the void in this area split again. A cultivator with a pointy mouth appeared. If Ning Yu was here, he would definitely discover that this sharp-mouthed cultivator wasn't a human, but a phantom mouse that he was familiar with. One had to know that the phantom armor had always been with Ning Yu. However, as Ning Yu's strength increased, the phantom armor could no longer satisfy him. Thus, he didn't try to upgrade the phantom armor's level recently. Now that the sharp-mouthed phantom mouse appeared, it immediately straightened its nose and sniffed hard. Then, a fierce look appeared on its face. I'm finally going to find the third phantom armor of the Phantom Mouse clan. The sharp-mouthed phantom mouse curled up the corner of its mouth and said sinisterly, as long as I can combine the third phantom armor with the first two, I will be able to create a magic treasure at the peak of the heaven immortal level in an instant. By then, all the opportunities on the path to heaven will belong to me. As soon as it finished speaking, the sharp-mouthed phantom mouse instantly turned into a residual shadow and went into the path to heaven. Whoosh! As soon as the sharp-mouthed phantom mouse disappeared, the area split again. This time, there was only one cultivator who appeared. He was about 60 or 70 years old. Ning Yu was very familiar with this cultivator. If Ning Yu was here, he would easily recognize this old man as the old man on the top floor of the Ivory Tower in Ivory City. Ning Yu still had the time obverse pagoda that the old man had given him. I didn't expect to use the time obverse pagoda after so long. I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing. The old man sighed softly. Then, he tiptoed and disappeared into the path to heaven in a few breaths. Rumble. Not long after the old man disappeared, a huge bronze door suddenly appeared at the entrance of the path to heaven. This bronze door sealed the entrance of the path to heaven so tightly that not even a fly could fly in. Ning Yu had no idea what had happened at the entrance of the path to heaven. However, even if Ning Yu knew, he would not care too much about it. This was because after entering the path to heaven, he was transported to a mountain range. If he had only been transported to a mountain range, Ning Yu would not have been worried. What worried him was that the mountain range began to shake violently when he landed. The violent shaking lasted for half an hour before it stopped. Do you think the stop of the shaking is the end? Sorry, the stop of the shaking means the arrival of another starting point. Rumble. In front of Ning Yu, the ground suddenly caved in and 4 huge stone pillars suddenly emerged from the ground. On top of each stone pillar was a small altar. It's a half-step Xian immortal demonic beast skeleton. Ning Yu was shocked. Because he saw a small-scale altar at the top of every single stone pillar, and every single altar contained the corpse of a half-step mysterious immortal realm demon beast. Earthly underworld hound. Ning Yu's expression turned solemn. The so-called earthly underworld hound, as the name suggested, was a type of dog that lived deep underground. The opposite of the earthly underworld hound was the heaven-devouring hound. Although the heaven-devouring hound was ranked higher than the earthly underworld hound in the vast thousand world, some of the stronger martial artists knew that the gap between the two wasn't that big. There were experts among the earthly underworld hounds. Not to mention the Xian immortal level earthly underworld hounds, they could even fight against the Xian immortal level heaven-devouring hound. Using 4 earthly underworld hounds as sacrifices, the weakest demonic beast or human would be a Xian immortal at the very least. Whoosh, whoosh. Ning Yu did not make a decision on his own. Instead, he released Zhao Rui and immortal Hongling from his storage ring. It's actually an earthly underworld hound. Why is there an earthly underworld hound here? Immortal Hongling and Zhao Rui had different reactions when they appeared. Chapter 2064. We're in trouble. Zhao Rui and immortal Hongling looked at each other and saw the uneasiness in each other's eyes. Taking a deep breath, Zhao Rui said to Ning Yu, "If I'm not wrong, these 4 earth netherhounds are just the appetizer. The real sacrificial items are yet to come." Rumble. As if to verify the accuracy of Zhao Rui's words, an even larger stone pillar slowly appeared at the center of the 4 stone pillars. Gasp! Seeing the small altar on top of the huge stone pillar, Ningyu and the others all sucked in a breath of cold air. Zhao Rui was right. The 4 half-step abstruse immortal earth netherhounds were just the appetizer. The real big fish was the earth netherhound on the small altar. Abstruse immortal. Although the earth netherhound had been dead for a long time, Ningyu and the others could tell from its aura that it was a abstruse immortal demon beast. 4 half-step abstruse immortals and 1 abstruse immortal. Such a lineup of sacrificial items could no longer be considered luxurious. It would not be an exaggeration to describe it as super luxurious. Did we just barge into the grave of a golden immortal? Ningyu felt his scalp go numb. Given his and Zhao Rui's strength, if they encountered a peak heaven immortal expert, they would be able to resist or even kill them. But if they met a half-step abstruse immortal or demon beast, they could only swallow their grievances. What they were facing now was not just a half-step abstruse immortal, but a abstruse immortal or golden immortal. It shouldn't be a golden immortal. Zhao Rui shook her head. How powerful is a golden immortal? This path to heaven might look stable, but I can tell you clearly that once a golden immortal appears, the path to heaven will definitely collapse. Could it be that Origin Creation Immortal isn't a golden immortal? Ningyu's heart skipped a beat. He had always thought that Origin Creation Immortal was a golden immortal. After all, the true level of the Origin Creation Divine Staff was a peak abstruse treasure. It was just that he couldn't unleash the full power of the Origin Creation Divine Staff. Now that Zhao Rui said that golden immortals wouldn't appear on the path of ingress, didn't that mean that Origin Creation Immortal's cultivation was at most a peak Shen Immortal? Don't worry about it. Let's take these earthly abyss hounds away first. Just as Ningyu was in a daze, Zhao Rui's words suddenly reached his ears. Ningyu was stunned when he heard the voice. Then, he looked at Zhao Rui in disbelief. In the end, you were just trying to get your hands on the corpses of the Netherworld hounds. Let's make an agreement first. I want 3 half-step Shen immortal underworld hound corpses. Ignoring Ningyu's strange gaze, Zhao Rui stretched out 3 fingers and said, "You two, don't fight with me." As she spoke, Zhao Rui's feet touched the ground, and her body instantly shot out. Whoosh. Seeing Zhao Rui rush out, Ningyu's face darkened. There were a total of 4 half-step Shen immortal underworld hounds. Zhao Rui wanted 3 in one go. She was really asking for an exorbitant price. The reason why Ningyu felt that Zhao Rui was asking for an exorbitant price wasn't because he was stingy, but because he felt that he wouldn't be able to get the Shen immortal underworld hound corpse with his current strength. Try using the Origin Creation Divine Staff. Perhaps sensing Ningyu's depression, Immortal Hongling said, even if a Shen immortal underworld hound is dead, it still has a terrifying aura. You have to withstand that terrifying aura in order to get it. I see. Hearing Immortal Hongling's words, Ningyu gradually understood. It wasn't that Zhao Rui didn't want the Shen immortal underworld hound corpse, but she didn't have a magic treasure that could withstand the aura of a Shen immortal. After all, in order to withstand the aura of a Shen immortal, her magic treasure had to be at least of the Shen immortal level. I'll leave the remaining half-step Shen immortal underworld hound corpse to you. Since Immortal Hongling had told Ningyu this secret, Ningyu naturally wouldn't be stingy. As for the remaining Shen Immortal Hongling, Ningyu decided to give it to Immortal Hongling. As for him, he held the Origin Creation Divine Staff and rushed towards the Shen Immortal Underworld Hound corpse in the middle. Thank you. Seeing that Ningyu was willing to give her the Shen Immortal Underworld Hound corpse, Immortal Hongling's face lit up as she hurriedly thanked him. Actually, it was no wonder that Immortal Hongling was so excited. If she could refine this half-step Shen Immortal Underworld Hound corpse, her strength would at least double. Swish. Ningyu didn't care whether Immortal Hongling was excited or not. Holding the Origin Creation Divine Staff, he arrived beside the Shen Immortal Underworld Hound corpse in the blink of an eye. Buzz. As expected. An extremely terrifying aura emanated from the Shen Immortal Underworld Hound corpse, pressing down on Ningyu. Go. Fortunately, Ningyu was prepared. He immediately placed the Origin Creation Divine Staff on top of the Shen Immortal Underworld Hound corpse. Fut. However, What Ningyu expected didn't happen. The origin creation divine staff didn't suppress the aura emanating from the Shen immortal underworld hound. Instead, it reversed and was suppressed by the aura. What's going on? Ningyu frowned slightly. He turned to look at Immortal Hongling and Zhao Rui, who were at the side, and realized that they were working hard. Zhao Rui was very fast. In a short period of time, she had already collected 2 Shen immortal underworld hound corpses. Immortal Hongling wasn't bad either. According to Ningyu's estimation, she would need at most 3 minutes to collect the Shen immortal underworld hound corpse. Could it be that this Shen immortal underworld hound's cultivation isn't at the early stage Shen immortal stage? Ningyu's brows were tightly knitted as he fell into deep thought. In Ningyu's opinion, Immortal Hongling definitely wouldn't dare to lie to him. After all, Immortal Hongling was completely under his control. As long as he willed it, Immortal Hongling would die. Oh right. Suddenly, Ningyu slapped his head and hurriedly took out the leftover material from the lightning pool. Ningyu wanted to see if the leftover material from the lightning pool could suppress the aura emanating from the Shen immortal underworld hound corp. Although the origin creation divine staff had reached the peak of Shen treasure, Ningyu was ultimately unable to unleash 100% of its power. The origin creation divine staff with 50% of its power was equivalent to an ordinary peak late-stage heavenly treasure Dharma treasure. The leftover material from the lightning pool was chopped off by Ningyu from the lightning pool. Strictly speaking, its material was much better than the origin creation divine staff. Buzz. Buzz. Reality proved that Ningyu's decision to take out the leftover material from the lightning pool was the right choice. The leftover material from the lightning pool was indeed able to suppress the aura emanating from the Shen immortal underworld hound corpse. Furthermore, Ningyu also discovered something extremely shocking. There wasn't just one Shen immortal underworld hound corpse in the small altar. According to Ningyu's initial observation, there were at least 5 Shen immortal level Shen immortal underworld hound corpses in the small altar. Isn't this too exaggerated? Ningyu's mouth was wide open and his face was filled with disbelief. 5 Shen immortal underworld hound corpses were already enough for him to charge into the heaven immortal realm. In fact, Ningyu had already made up his mind. As long as he obtained the 5 Shen immortal underworld hound corpses, he would charge into the heaven immortal realm right here. Chapter 2065. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Suddenly, Ningyu was taken aback. He realized that the essence creation divine rod in his hand was vibrating intensely. You should enter the storage ring first. Ningyu opened the storage ring and placed the essence creation divine rod inside. After entering the path to heaven, Ningyu made a decision. Unless he had no other choice, he would not increase the power of the essence creation divine rod. In other words, a 50% power essence creation divine rod might accompany him until he left the path to heaven. Although Ningyu did not completely lose trust in the essence creation divine rod, it had already become his second choice. The red demon sword's position in his heart soared to the top again. Can you give me a corpse? Ningyu had just thrown the essence creation divine rod into the storage ring when he heard the red demon's voice. The red demon's strength was linked to the grade of the red demon sword. The red demon sword was now a late-stage heavenly treasure, so the red demon's strength was a late-stage heaven immortal. Once the red demon sword was upgraded to a dark treasure, the red demon's strength would definitely soar to the Shen immortal level. How much can an Earth Hellhound's corpse increase your strength? Ningyu asked directly. In Ningyu's opinion, if the red demon could increase his cultivation to the peak heaven immortal level, he would not frown even if he had to give him 2 Earth Hellhound corpses. Peak late-stage heaven immortal level. The red demon thought for a moment and answered, if I can have 2 Earth Hellhound corpses, my strength can increase to the peak heaven immortal level. Alright, I'll give you 2 Earth Hellhound corpses. Ningyu nodded and threw the 2 Earth Hellhound corpses to the red demon. Swoosh. After receiving the 2 Earth Hellhound corpses, the red demon flew to the other side. As for Ningyu, he placed his right hand on one of the Earth Hellhound corpses and began to devour the remaining energy. Bam! Just as Ningyu started devouring the Earthhound corpses, Zhao Rui had already completely refined the 3 half-step Shen immortal Earthhound corpses. After refining the 3 Earth Hellhound corpses, even though Zhao Rui's cultivation was still in the late Heavenly Immortal stage, her battle prowess had recovered to its peak. After all, before refining the corpse of the Netherworld Hound, Zhao Rui was only able to bring forth 50% of her peak strength. Boom! At the same time, Immortal Redling had also completed her devouring and refining process. However, Immortal Hongling had only devoured and refined the corpse of a half-step Shen Immortal Underworld Hound, so her strength did not improve much. It seems Ning Yu wants to assail the Heavenly Immortal stage. After sensing her own strength, Immortal Hongling shifted her gaze to Ning Yu. As soon as she did, Immortal Hongling's brows furrowed. It wasn't that Immortal Hongling didn't believe in Ning Yu, but if he were to undergo the Heavenly Immortal Tribulation here, it would very likely cause the entire mountain range to shake. It didn't matter if the mountain range shook, but if the master of the ritual appeared, the consequences would be unimaginable. Although a lot of energy has been lost from the 3 Shen Immortal Underworld Hound corpses, it's enough to support Ning Yu's breakthrough to the Heavenly Immortal stage. Hearing Immortal Hongling's words, Zhao Rui also stared at Ning Yu. However, Zhao Rui and Immortal Hongling had different opinions. From her expression, one could tell that she wasn't worried at all. Even so, I'm worried. Immortal Hongling pointed to the depths of the mountain range and said, "You don't have to worry at all. I've observed carefully just now and discovered that we're in the middle of a huge array, and these 5 huge stone pillars are the eyes of the array." Zhao Rui pointed to the entire mountain range, then pointed to the 5 huge stone pillars in front of them, and explained, "There are a total of 5 such eyes." 5. Immortal Hongling was stunned at first, then said, "You mean to say that there are a total of 25 huge stone pillars, and on top of each stone pillar is the corpse of an Earth Hellhound?" Actually, it was no wonder that Immortal Hongling was shocked. If what Zhao Rui said was true, then how powerful was the owner of the entire mountain range? Unless Ning Yu's Heavenly Immortal Tribulation is comparable to the Shen Immortal Tribulation, it's impossible for it to attract the attention of the owner of the mountain range. Zhao Rui shrugged, then shifted her gaze to the Hong Fiend. Compared to Ning Yu, Zhao Rui was more curious about the Hong Fiend. The Hong Fiend was the sword spirit of the Red Fiend sword. Not only did it have its own consciousness, but it could also live independently from the sword. To be honest, Zhao Rui had never seen a sword spirit like the Hong Fiend, even though she was from the Central Divine Dynasty. A Heavenly Immortal Tribulation comparable to the Shen Immortal Tribulation? Immortal Hongling frowned. For some reason, she felt that things weren't so simple. After all, when Ning Yu mentioned the Heavenly Immortal Tribulation to her, his expression didn't seem to be fake. Drip, drip. Time was ticking away. In the blink of an eye, 2 hours had passed. After 2 hours, the Hong Fiend finally refined the 2 Earth Hellhound corpses. Bam! Bam! 2 muffled sounds rang out. The first was the Red Fiend sword's advancement from the late-stage Heavenly Treasure to the peak-stage Heavenly Treasure. The second was the Hong Fiend sword's advancement from the late-stage Heaven Immortal Realm to the peak-stage Heaven Immortal Realm. The Hong Fiend sword's strength was linked to the Red Fiend sword's advancement. Now that the Red Fiend sword had advanced to the peak-stage Heaven Immortal Realm, the Hong Fiend sword's strength naturally soared to the peak-stage Heaven Immortal Realm. The Dark Emperor, Ning Lu, the Hong Fiend. Zhao Rui's eyes darted around, thinking of countermeasures. In Zhao Rui's heart, she had always wanted Ning Lu and the Dark Emperor to join the Central Divine Dynasty because she felt that they were very talented. But now, after seeing the talent displayed by the Hong Fiend, Zhao Rui gradually changed her mind. She felt that the Hong Fiend sword was the most talented. After all, Ning Lu and the Dark Emperor were only at the Earth Immortal Realm, while the Hong Fiend sword had soared to the peak-stage Heaven Immortal Realm. It seems that I have to find a chance to talk to the Hong Fiend and try to get him to... Zhao Rui took a deep breath and murmured, "Rumble." However, before Zhao Rui could finish her words, her mouth opened slightly, revealing a look of surprise. There was no other reason. Ning Yu, who was in midair, had completely refined the 3 corpses of the Earth Hellhounds. And above Ning Yu's head, a pitch-black tribulation cloud had appeared. Although the tribulation cloud was only the size of a palm, Zhao Rui knew that as time went by, the tribulation cloud would definitely grow bigger and bigger. Whoosh! It turned out that Zhao Rui's guess was right. The tribulation cloud above Ning Yu's head grew bigger and bigger. In just a few seconds, it had grown several times bigger. Moreover, the tribulation cloud was still growing bigger. The heaven immortal tribulation. Without a doubt, the tribulation cloud above Ning Yu's head was his heaven immortal tribulation. So terrifying. Feeling the terrifying aura emanating from the tribulation cloud, even though immortal Hongling was mentally prepared, she could not help but gasp. Chapter 2066. Compared to immortal Hongling. Zhao Rui was truly shocked. Zhao Rui was so shocked that she stood rooted to the ground. She wanted to say something, but eventually shut her mouth. Miscalculation. A huge miscalculation. Zhao Rui knew that she was wrong, very wrong. Although Ning Yu's heaven immortal tribulation had yet to reach its peak, it was already comparable to hers. It was conceivable that once Ning Yu's heaven immortal tribulation broke out completely, it would definitely crush hers. This was because as time passed, Ning Yu's heaven immortal tribulation became more and more terrifying. Will it attract the attention of the owner of the mountain range? Ning Yu's tribulation cloud continued to strengthen, giving Zhao Rui a sense of danger for the first time. Based on this trend, even if there were 10 formation eyes, they might not be able to withstand the impact of Ning Yu's heaven immortal tribulation, let alone 5 formation eyes and 25 giant stone pillars. As long as the 5 formation eyes were broken, the owner of the mountain range would definitely appear. At that time, it was highly likely that danger would befall them. Rumble. Ning Yu did not know about Zhao Rui's worries. However, even though Ning Yu knew about Zhao Rui's worries, there was nothing he could do at the moment. After devouring and refining the 3 corpses of the earthly hellhounds, the energy in his body was completely saturated, and he automatically triggered the heaven immortal tribulation. Ning Yu raised his head and looked at the black tribulation cloud that appeared in mid-air. His expression became extremely solemn. The heaven immortal tribulation was different from the earth immortal tribulation. Strictly speaking, only those who had passed the heaven immortal tribulation could be considered as real immortals. After all, there were no earth immortal laws in the body of an earth immortal, but there were heaven immortal laws in the body of a heaven immortal. The power of laws was the biggest difference between a heaven immortal and an earth immortal. Whoosh! All of a sudden, a waist-thick tribulation cloud appeared in mid-air and smashed towards Ning Yu fiercely. Whoosh! Although the tribulation cloud was only as thick as a person's waist, the lightning energy it contained was exceptionally terrifying. As expected of a sky immortal tribulation cloud, Ning Yu took a deep breath, before clenching his right hand into a fist and abruptly punched out. To deal with the first tribulation cloud, Ning Yu would not use any trump cards. He did not even use his immortal energy. Instead, he would purely rely on his physical strength to resist it. Catcher. In the time it took for a spark to fly off a flint, Ning Yu's fist collided with the first tribulation cloud. A crisp sound rang out. Ning Yu retreated dozens of feet, and the first tribulation cloud dissipated into thin air. Whoosh! However, Ning Yu did not have time to rest. After the first tribulation cloud was dispersed, the second tribulation cloud descended. Compared to the first tribulation cloud, the power of the second tribulation cloud was much stronger. If the power of the first tribulation cloud was equivalent to the full force strike of a late heaven immortal expert, then the power of the second tribulation cloud was equivalent to the full force strike of a peak late heaven immortal expert. Block. Against the second tribulation cloud, Ning Yu still did not use his immortal energy. He clenched his right fist and punched again. Catcher. The same thing happened. Ning Yu retreated several feet, and the tribulation cloud dissipated between heaven and earth. Ning Yu's physical strength is so strong. In the distance, Zhao Rui could not help but exclaim when she saw Ning Yu resist the 2 tribulation clouds with just his fist. Although it was only the first 2 tribulation clouds, their power was equivalent to the attack of a late heaven immortal expert. The fact that Ningyu resisted them with his physical strength was enough to prove that the toughness of Ningyu's body was at least at the late Heaven Immortal level, or even the peak Heaven Immortal level. Boom! Just as Zhao Rui was secretly shocked, Ningyu's third tribulation cloud suddenly descended. Swoosh! Zhao Rui hurriedly looked over. She wanted to see if Ningyu would be like the previous two and purely rely on his physical strength to resist the third tribulation cloud. The power of the third tribulation cloud increased a lot again, and it was only half a step away from the true peak Heaven Immortal level. According to Zhao Rui's observation, the power of Ningyu's fourth tribulation cloud would definitely reach the peak Heaven Immortal level. Again, Ningyu gritted his teeth and swung his fist again. "I'm going to beat you." Ningyu's action made Zhao Rui unable to help but swear. Zhao Rui had to admit that Ningyu's boldness made her admire him for resisting the tribulation cloud 3 times in a row. However, admiration was admiration, and Zhao Rui was secretly worried for Ningyu. Zhao Rui even complained in her heart. She was worried that Ningyu would be too careless. If it were her, she would definitely use the immortal qi in her body to resist the third tribulation cloud. Crack! However, what happened next made Zhao Rui's mouth open wide, and she blushed for her own judgment again. Ningyu used his physical strength to resist the third tribulation cloud again. As the saying goes, once, twice, no more thrice. Ningyu used his physical strength to resist the tribulation cloud again and again, which was really beyond her expectation. Rumble. However, Ningyu's Heaven Immortal tribulation was far from that simple. Immediately after, a series of tribulation clouds came out of the void and smashed towards Ningyu. Although the power of these tribulation clouds had not reached the peak of Heaven Immortal, it was a little stronger than the third tribulation cloud. Essence creating divine staff. Ningyu's mind moved, and he took out the essence creating divine staff from his storage ring. Even though Ningyu did not like the essence creating divine staff, he could not deny the power of the essence-creating divine staff. It couldn't be better to use the essence-creating divine staff to resist these tribulation clouds. Crack, 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 under the powerful power of the essence-creating divine staff. In an instant, 3 tribulation clouds were broken and shattered. With Ningyu's strength and the help of the essence-creating divine staff, it did not take too much effort to resist this wave of tribulation clouds. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. At the same time, a void not far from Ningyu's group suddenly split open and a group of 3 martial artists gradually appeared. If Ningyu were here, he would definitely recognize these 3 cultivators as the cultivators he had met outside the path to heaven. The purple-robed elixir puppet, the bamboo hat martial artist, and the white-robed martial artist. Among the 3 of them, the purple-robed Dan Xiao was the strongest as he had reached the peak of Heaven Immortal stage. The bamboo hat martial artist was the second strongest as he was at the peak of late Heaven Immortal stage. The white-robed martial artist was even weaker as he was at the late Heaven Immortal stage. Ha ha ha. After stopping, the purple-robed Dan puppet raised his head and laughed maniacally. Then, he said darkly, "This is really a case of wearing out iron shoes in fruitless searching, only to find it by chance. The martial artist undergoing the tribulation is Ningyu." The bamboo hat martial artist was a man of few words. "What are you waiting for? Let's go. We can't let the origin divine staff fall into someone else's hand," the white-robed martial artist said anxiously. "What's the hurry?" The purple-robed Dan puppet glanced at the white-robed martial artist and said lightly, "If I'm not wrong, Ningyu should be undergoing the Sky Immortal tribulation. What's the use of running there now? Do you want to enter his thunder tribulation? Let's hide first. When he finishes his tribulation, he must be very weak. When that time comes, we can rush out together. Why worry about not being able to get the origin divine staff?" The bamboo hat martial artist said. As his voice fell, the bamboo hat martial artist suddenly drilled into the void and disappeared. Swish, swish. Chapter 2067. At the same time, in another area, the void suddenly split open. A martial artist appeared out of thin air. Mo Ran. This martial artist was Mo Ran from the Wu Heng cave. Is he undergoing the great tribulation of celestial immortal? Mo Ran frowned slightly. Without thinking, Mo Ran knew that the martial artist undergoing the tribulation was Ning Yu. After all the martial artists who entered the path to heaven, except for Ning Yu, were at the celestial immortal realm. Now that someone was undergoing the great tribulation of celestial immortal, there was a 99% chance that this person was Ning Yu. Unlike Dan Puppet and the others, Mo Ran was very far away from Ning Yu. He could only detect a trace of the heavenly tribulation's aura, but he could not directly determine that it was Ning Yu who was undergoing the tribulation. Although he guessed that it was Ning Yu 99%, there was still a 1% chance that it was not Ning Yu. Swish. Clenching his fists, Mo Ran stomped on the ground and his body darted out in an instant. Ka, Ka, Ka. Not long after Mo Ran disappeared, the space in the area he was in cracked open again. Sharp-mouthed Shadow Mouse. It was a member of the Shadow Mouse clan, a sharp-mouthed Shadow Mouse. Over there. The sharp-mouthed Shadow Mouse sniffed hard, then burrowed into the void and disappeared. The same thing kept happening. To be precise, as long as the martial artists sensed Ning Yu's great tribulation of celestial immortal, they all rushed over without stopping. Therefore, it became a great feat in the path to heaven. Martial artists from all directions rushed out, for fear that the origin-creating divine staff would be snatched away if they were a step late. Of course, for these martial artists at the late stage of celestial immortal, even if they reached the mountain range where Ning Yu was and saw Ning Yu, they were destined to not be able to get the origin-creating divine staff. Puff. In the mountain range. A huge tribulation cloud came crashing down and fiercely smashed onto Ning Yu's chest. The tearing pain from his chest made Ning Yu's throat sweet, and he immediately spat out a mouthful of red blood. The 48th tribulation cloud. Not too far away from Ning Yu, Zhao Rui, Immortal Redling, and even Red Fiend were already numb. From the beginning until now, Ning Yu had already forcefully withstood 48 tribulation cloud. These tribulation clouds, Ning Yu used his physical strength to forcefully resist. Starting from the 24th tribulation cloud, the power of the tribulation cloud had already reached the peak of heaven immortal. More than 20 tribulation clouds with the power of a peak stage heaven immortal had almost reached the limit that Ning Yu's body could withstand. Rumble. The void trembled as Ning Yu's 49th tribulation cloud descended. Again, even though he was covered in blood, Ning Yu was still fearless. He wanted to use his physical strength to resist the 49th tribulation cloud. On the other side, Zhao Rui, Immortal Red Bell, and Red Fiend, the three of them didn't even dare to watch. This was because Ning Yu was already covered in blood. They were really afraid that Ning Yu would not be able to withstand the 49th tribulation cloud. Whoosh! Under the watchful eyes of Zhao Rui and the rest, the 49th tribulation cloud smashed onto Ning Yu's body. Crack, crack, crack. In an instant. Several crisp sounds came from Ning Yu's body. It was obvious. 3 bones in Ning Yu's body were broken. Finally, at the cost of 3 broken bones, Ning Yu withstood the 49th tribulation cloud. Ning Yu's heaven immortal tribulation is over. Immortal Red Bell looked at Ning Yu, then looked at the calm void above Ning Yu's head and asked doubtfully. It's not over. Zhao Rui's expression was extremely solemn. She said in a deep voice, if I'm not wrong, it's just that the first stage of Ning Yu's heaven immortal tribulation is over. The first stage? Immortal Red Bell was slightly stunned. She then said, you mean there's a second stage? Heh, it's not just the second stage. There are at least 4 or 5 more stages. Zhao Rui sneered and said. Gasp. Hearing Zhao Rui's words, Immortal Red Bell gasped. The first stage of the tribulation cloud was already so powerful. What about the second, third, and even the 4th stage of the tribulation cloud? Recover. Ning Yu did not argue. He hurriedly mobilized the immortal qi in his body and began to recover. Ning Yu was very clear. The first stage of the tribulation cloud was just the appetizer. The real feast was yet to come. The reason why the real feast was yet to come was that none of the other formation eyes had appeared. Time flew by. In the blink of an eye, 3 minutes had passed. In 3 minutes, not only had Ning Yu connected the 3 broken bones, but he had also recovered to his peak state. Then, the void cracked again. The second stage of the tribulation cloud suddenly fell. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. 5 terrifying tribulation clouds fell from the sky and attacked Ningyu at an extremely terrifying speed. Rumble. However, at that moment, the ground not far away from Ningyu suddenly caved in. 5 giant stone pillars emerged from the ground. The second formation I. Without a doubt, the 5 giant stone pillars formed the second formation I. Whoosh 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 whoosh. Seeing the appearance of the 5 stone pillars, the 5 terrifying tribulation clouds in the sky suddenly turned around and attacked the stone pillars. The sudden change left Ningyu dumbfounded. What was going on? Why did the tribulation clouds suddenly change direction? One had to know that these were his second stage tribulation clouds. Now that the tribulation clouds were attacking the 5 giant stone pillars, Ningyu was a little confused. Crack 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 crack. Just as Ningyu was pondering, the 5 giant stone pillars were broken by the 5 tribulation clouds. At the same time, 4 half-step mystic immortal earthhound corpses and 5 mystic immortal earthhound corpses flew out from the small altar at the top of the stone pillars. This is my chance. Ningyu gritted his teeth and immediately charged out. With so many earthhound corpses, it would be a waste not to take them. Anyway, he was still worried that he couldn't break through to the mid-stage heavenly immortal realm. If he had these earthhound corpses, he would definitely be able to break through to the mid-stage heavenly immortal realm. Ningyu's speed was very fast. In the blink of an eye, he was already close to the corpses. Go in. Ningyu immediately opened his storage ring and took out the leftover materials from the lightning pool. Using the leftover materials, he threw the earthhound corpses into the storage ring. Rumble. Just as Ningyu placed the 9 earthhound corpses into the storage ring, his third stage tribulation clouds had already arrived. In the sky, several tribulation clouds covered the sky and struck towards Ningyu. Buzz buzz. However, the same thing happened. The third formation I appeared. 5 giant stone pillars slowly emerged from the ground. Just like before, the tribulation clouds in the sky turned around again and struck towards the 5 giant stone pillars. Ningyu seized the opportunity and stored the 9 earthhound corpses in the third formation I into the storage ring. At this point, there were 8 half-step mystic immortal earthhound corpses and 10 mystic immortal earthhound corpses in the storage ring. With so many earthhound corpses, the Dark Emperor and Ninglu got a great deal. In the storage ring, the Dark Emperor and Ninglu were extremely busy. Chapter 2068. Gulp. On the other side, Zhao Rui and Immortal Hongling couldn't help but swallow when they saw Ningyu's actions. Wasn't this too exaggerated? At this rate, it wouldn't be long before all 5 formation eyes were destroyed. And once the formation eyes were destroyed, then the owner of the entire mountain range was very likely to appear. Rumble. However, what shocked Zhao Rui and Immortal Hongling was yet to come. In mid-air, Ningyu's 4th stage tribulation cloud suddenly descended. Obviously, Ningyu's 4th stage tribulation cloud corresponded to the 4th formation I. Before long, the 4 half-step abstruse immortal and 5 abstruse immortal earthhound corpses in the 4th formation I were put into Ningyu's storage ring. Whoosh. The same thing was happening again and again. Ningyu's 5th stage tribulation cloud easily destroyed the 5th array core, allowing Ningyu to obtain the corpse of the Earth Hellhound in the 5th array core without any effort. So far, apart from the first formation I, Ningyu had a total of 16 half-step abstruse immortal and 20 abstruse immortal Earthhound corpses. Because Ningyu had been paying attention to the gradually enlarging tribulation cloud, he didn't pay attention to the situation in the storage ring. If Ningyu knew the situation in the storage ring, he would probably be very angry. Because the Dark Emperor and Ninglu had already devoured 10 half-step abstruse immortal Earthhound corpses in a short period of time. It wasn't that Ningyu didn't want to, but in his opinion, since the Dark Emperor and Ninglu had devoured so many corpses, their cultivations should have increased. However, the aura that the Dark Emperor and Ninglu emitted was still at the peak of the Earth Immortal realm, and there was still a long way to go before they reached the early stage of the heaven immortal realm. Of course, Ningyu didn't have the time to pay attention to these trivial matters for now. He stared at the huge tribulation cloud in midair, and his expression became extremely solemn. The last tribulation cloud. The huge tribulation cloud in midair was the last tribulation cloud for Ningyu's heavenly immortal tribulation. Ningyu sensed an extremely terrifying aura from the tribulation cloud. Half-step profound immortal. Ningyu took a deep breath and his expression turned solemn. Even though he was mentally prepared, he couldn't help but feel nervous. What kind of concept was a half-step profound immortal? If he was able to resist this tribulation cloud, then if he encountered Mo Ran, the purple-clothed Dan puppet, and the others again in the future, he might be able to annihilate them without having to waste too much effort. Kai. The tribulation clouds in the sky didn't make Ningyu wait for too long. 1 minute later, a huge black tribulation cloud swept down from the void and blasted fiercely towards Ningyu. Ka. Zhao Rui and Immortal Hongling clenched their fists tightly as they watched the enormous black tribulation cloud rumble towards Ningyu. They looked extremely nervous. Red Fiend's actions were even more exaggerated. If it wasn't for Zhao Rui and Immortal Hongling stopping him, Red Fiend would definitely rush into the tribulation cloud and help Ningyu to resist this tribulation cloud. Because in Red Fiend's opinion, Ningyu's cultivation had not reached the heavenly immortal stage after all. It was really unwise for him to go head-on against a half-step profound immortal tribulation. Let me test your power first. Ningyu raised his head and looked at the black tribulation cloud that was only a few feet away from him. He took out the leftover materials from the lightning pool unhurriedly. The hardness of the leftover materials was no less than that of the Essence Creation Divine Staff. Ningyu had some confidence in using the leftover materials from the lightning pool to resist the half-step profound immortal tribulation cloud. However, it was just a little bit of confidence. Ningyu didn't bet all his treasures on the leftover materials from the lightning pool. If the leftover materials were useless, wouldn't he have to face this tribulation cloud directly? Therefore, Ningyu placed the leftover materials on top of his head while he used the Essence Creation Divine Staff to build a second line of defense. At the same time, Ningyu began to contact the Dark Emperor and Ninglu in the storage ring. He wanted them to inject their recovered energy into his body. If it really didn't work, he would go head-on against the tribulation cloud. I can't believe it. However, as soon as Ningyu's perception entered the storage ring, he couldn't help but curse. Wasn't the Dark Emperor and Ninglu too exaggerated? In just a few minutes, not only did the two of them devour and refine 16 half-step profound immortal Earthhound corpses, they even refined 2 profound immortal Earthhound corpses. Ningyu, where did you find these Earthhound corpses? They are really great nourishment for me. Sensing Ningyu's perception entering the storage ring, the Dark Emperor grabbed another profound immortal Earthhound corpse and threw it into his mouth to chew. Yeah, with so many Earthhound corpses, I feel like my battle strength can soar to the peak of Heaven Immortal, and even have a chance to break through to the half-step profound immortal realm. Ninglu strongly agreed with the Dark Emperor. I'll deal with you guys later. Ningyu knew what was more important. What he needed to do now wasn't to argue with the Dark Emperor and Ninglu, but to gather his strength to resist the last tribulation cloud. Blocked it. The lightning pool would appear, and he could complete the absorption of the tribulation lightning here. Unable to block it, he would most likely vanish into thin air. Ding! Suddenly, a crisp sound rang out. The leftover materials from the lightning pool above Ningyu's head had already collided with the huge black tribulation cloud. Ningyu was dumbfounded. Zhao Rui was dumbfounded. Immortal Hongling and Hong Mo were dumbfounded. Apart from the few of them, even the Dark Emperor and Ninglu in the storage ring were dumbfounded. The leftover materials from the lightning pool had actually blocked the impact of the black tribulation cloud. Wong. The black tribulation cloud seemed to have some pride. It swayed rapidly in the air a few times, then dove down again. Swish. However, the leftover materials from the lightning pool seemed to be at odds with it. No matter which direction it attacked Ningyu from, the leftover materials from the lightning pool would perfectly block it. This situation didn't last long. After all, Ningyu's great tribulation of the sky immortal had come to an end. The black clouds in the void were slowly dissipating. The dissipation of the black clouds in the void meant that the power of Ningyu's last tribulation cloud was rapidly weakening. Crack. Not long after, Ningyu's last tribulation cloud couldn't hold on any longer and was smashed to pieces by the leftover materials from the lightning pool. Whoosh. The shattering of the last tribulation cloud indicated that Ningyu's great tribulation of the sky immortal had come to an end. Now that the tribulation was over, the next thing was naturally the baptism of the tribulation lightning. The void trembled, and then a golden lightning pool slowly appeared in front of everyone. Tribulation lightning liquid. Seeing the appearance of the golden lightning pool, even though Zhao Rui was from the central divine dynasty, she couldn't help but look serious. Zhao Rui's perception was originally very strong. She could clearly feel that the lightning tribulation fluid in the golden lightning pool was extremely authentic lightning tribulation fluid. The reason why it was called authentic was that the tribulation lightning liquid in the golden lightning pool wasn't even qualified to appear in some experts who were undergoing the great tribulation of the sky immortal. Chapter 2069. Zhao Rui came from the central divine dynasty. She could say without exaggeration that even in the central divine dynasty, the number of people who could do what Ningyu had done was less than a handful. There were many people who could do that. The number of geniuses Zhao Rui mentioned was not only limited to this batch of geniuses, but also included all the geniuses since the establishment of the central divine dynasty until now. There were more than 10 million geniuses in the central divine dynasty. It was no wonder that Zhao Rui was shocked that Ningyu could rank in the top 5 among so many geniuses. "I wonder if Ningyu will give me a cup," Zhao Rui murmured, staring at the golden thunder pool in midair. However, before Zhao Rui's murmur had died away, several sinister laughs rang in her ears. "Ha ha ha. It seems that this trip was worth it. Even if we can't get the origin divine staff, with so much thunder tribulation fluid, our strength can double. Yes, improving our own strength is the most important thing. As long as our strength doubles, I don't believe we can't leave the path to heaven. What are you waiting for? Hurry up and make your move. Snatch the lightning pool first." Swoosh. Many experts who had been attracted by Ningyu's celestial immortal tribulation finally couldn't help showing their fangs after seeing the thunder tribulation fluid. To be honest, the appearance of so many experts made Zhao Rui and immortal Hongling's faces darken. Even though these people were the same heavenly immortal realm experts that were at the entrance of the path to heaven not long ago, but compared to that time, the strengths of these heavenly immortal realm experts had increased by over 2 times. In layman's terms, Zhao Rui and immortal Hongling thought they had no ability to deal with them. Plop. Ningyu didn't seem to notice the appearance of these people. He still did what he wanted and jumped into the thunder pool. Wisps of thunder tribulation fluid entered Ningyu's body through his pores. And Ningyu absorbed the thunder tribulation fluid at a very fast speed. Almost every second, Ningyu's strength would increase a little. However, this action of Ningyu angered the warriors who had appeared around. Shio. A bearded cultivator soared up from the ground and charged at Ningyu. This bearded martial artist's cultivation was at the peak of late sky immortal stage. In terms of combat prowess, he was a bit stronger than immortal devil snake. "Kid, if you know what's good for you, you'd better hurry up and pu." Before the bearded man could finish his sentence, his body lost control of itself and was sent flying backward. He spat out a mouthful of blood. What happened? Why did Beard fly back by himself? You're asking me? Who am I supposed to ask? It should be Ningyu who made the move just now. I saw him raise his hand slightly. The surrounding martial artists once again discussed spiritedly. But this time, they looked at Ningyu as if they were looking at a monster. This was because Ningyu had only raised his hand and the bearded cultivator was sent flying. Furthermore, his aura had dropped to a freezing point. Everyone, don't be frightened by Ningyu. I saw everything that happened just now very clearly. It was the girl beside Ningyu who made the move. Just as everyone was at a standstill, A deep voice suddenly resounded. The purpose of this voice was very clear. It was to point the spearhead at Zhao Rui, making Ning Yu the target of public criticism once again. No wonder. I thought that Ning Yu only moved a finger. How could he possibly defeat the bearded cultivator? I suggest that we attack together. If we're a step late, the lightning tribulation fluid will be completely absorbed by Ning Yu. Go. With this fanning, many martial artists rushed out one after another, charging at Ning Yu from all directions. Splash. Sensing so many martial artists charging at him, Ning Yu suddenly stood up from the lightning pool and stored the lightning tribulation fluid in the lightning pool into a jade bottle and threw it into his storage ring. Buzz buzz. After the lightning tribulation fluid was put away by Ning Yu, the lightning pool immediately turned into a shadow and disappeared. Ning Yu first cracked his neck, then waved his hand at Zhao Rui and Immortal Hongling, indicating that they didn't need to come over and help. The current Ning Yu was no longer the same as before. After transcending the heavenly immortal tribulation, his cultivation base had surpassed the early stage heavenly immortal realm with the help of the netherworld hound's corpse that he had devoured earlier, and reached the mid-stage heavenly immortal realm. After advancing to the mid-stage heavenly immortal realm, Ning Yu didn't know exactly how strong his true strength was. Coincidentally at this moment, with so many cannon fodder coming to cause trouble, it was the perfect opportunity for Ning Yu to test his strength. Can Ning Yu do it? Seeing Ning Yu wave his hand, Immortal Hongling revealed a worried expression. No one was more excited than Immortal Hongling that Ning Yu had advanced to the mid-stage heavenly immortal realm. Because only when Ning Yu's strength continued to increase, she would have a chance to advance to the mystic immortal realm if she followed Ning Yu. Otherwise, if Ning Yu continued to stay where he was, she would never be able to advance to the mystic immortal realm if she followed behind Ning Yu. As long as those experts don't appear, Ning Yu shouldn't have much of a problem. Zhao Rui glanced towards the east and said in a low voice. To be honest. As for Ning Yu's current strength, Zhao Rui was also completely clueless about it. However, there was one thing Zhao Rui could be sure of, and that was that Ning Yu wouldn't do something he wasn't confident in. Since Ning Yu dared to face so many martial artists head-on, it meant that he had the strength to do so. Those few experts. Immortal Hongling was stunned at first, then her expression became extremely solemn. Immortal Hongling wasn't stupid. She naturally knew who those experts Zhao Rui mentioned were. Mo Ran of the Everlasting Cave, the Pill Puppet clan's purple-robed Pill Puppet, the martial artist wearing a bamboo hat. The real battle seemed to have just begun. Fart. In midair, Ning Yu's fist landed on the head of a late-stage heaven immortal martial artist. The martial artist's head exploded, and blood and flesh splattered everywhere. To deal with this kind of martial artist, one had to be heavy-handed and kill him in one blow. He couldn't leave any leeway for him, otherwise, when he recovered, he would still be your enemy next time. There was only one thought in Ning Yu's mind, and that was to kill all these people. In any case, there were the Dark Emperor and Ning Lu in his storage ring, and even Hong Mo and Zhao Rui. With the devouring ability of the Dark Emperor and Ning Lu, even if there were a few peak heaven immortal martial artists, they would be easily devoured, let alone these martial artists who provoked them. After all, devouring the corpse of a half-step mystic immortal earthhound was as easy as eating for them. Although a lot of energy had been lost from the corpse of a half-step mystic immortal earthhound, it still contained much more energy than a peak heaven immortal martial artist. If not for the fact that he was busy, Ning Yu would definitely ask the Dark Emperor and Ning Lu why their strength hadn't improved at all. Everyone, calm down. Ning Yu is a wax head with a silver spear. As long as we remain calm, Ning Yu definitely won't be able to pose a threat to us. A low voice sounded in the void again. Humph. Come out. Chapter 2070. Not good. The white-robed cultivator paled and hastily retreated. Moreover, as he retreated, the white-clothed martial artist kept asking for help from the purple-clothed pill puppet and the bamboo hat martial artist. After all, his peak late-stage sky immortal cultivation made it very difficult for him to fight against Ning Yu. Unless the purple-robed Dan puppet and the bamboo-hatted martial artist helped him, he would definitely die. Should we go or not? The bamboo hat cultivator asked with a gloomy expression. In truth, after seeing Ningyu successfully advance to the mid-stage Sky Immortal stage, the bamboo hat cultivator no longer wanted to clash with Ningyu. His idea was very simple. He would let others fight with Ningyu, and he would just sit back and reap the benefits. Wait a little longer, the pill puppet said expressionlessly. The pill puppet was a peak Sky Immortal, so he could see the situation more clearly. Ningyu had already matured. Even if the pill puppet and the bamboo hat cultivator attacked together, they wouldn't be able to harm Ningyu in the slightest. For now, he could only wait for this path to be chosen. There was no other way. Damn it. The white-robed cultivator was no fool. He instantly determined that the pill puppet and the bamboo hat cultivator wouldn't help him. After cursing inwardly, the white-robed cultivator decisively said to Ningyu, "I surrender. I am willing to serve you. You only want to serve me now? I'm sorry, but I don't accept it." Ningyu slowly shook his head, then turned his palm into a fist and punched at the white-robed cultivator's head. Swish. At this critical moment, the white-robed cultivator hastily dodged. Although the martial artist in white was very fast, he was still punched in the chest by Ningyu, who was even faster. Crack, crack. With a few crisp sounds, several of the white-robed cultivator's ribs broke. Die. Ningyu didn't give the white-robed cultivator any chance. As soon as he succeeded in his attack, he immediately gave chase. This time, the cultivator in white was not so lucky. His head came into close contact with Ningyu's fist. All of a sudden, the white-clothed martial artist's head exploded, and his flesh and blood became a mess. I was a bit too heavy-handed. Looks like I'll have to pay more attention in the future. Ningyu stared at the white-robed martial artist's corpse for a moment before grabbing the white-robed martial artist's shoulder and tossing him into his storage ring. Since the Dark Emperor and Ning Lu were in his storage ring, Ningyu wasn't worried that no one would be able to digest the corpse of the cultivator in white. After doing all this, Ningyu's gaze swept across the surroundings, and his indifferent voice rang out. "Who else wants my tribulation lightning fluid?" Whoosh. Although Ningyu spoke very gently and did not have any killing intent, the surrounding martial artists were not stupid. Who would dare to oppose Ningyu now? Even someone as strong as the white-clothed martial artist was killed in a few moves, let alone small fries like them. "I'll give you a chance to live now." Ningyu was prepared to kill them all at first, but on second thought, the expert hidden in the void had not appeared yet, so he couldn't exhaust himself too much. If he exhausted himself too much, wouldn't he be at a disadvantage when the expert in the void appeared? "What do you want us to do?" Hearing Ningyu's words, a bald-headed heavenly immortal late-stage martial artist mustered up his courage and asked. "That's a very good question." Ningyu raised his head and swept a glance at the bald-headed martial artist, and said, "As long as you hand over your worldly possessions to me, I'll spare your lives." "Worldly possessions?" The bald-headed martial artist patted his bald head, then took out a storage bag and said, "All my magic treasures and pills are in this storage bag. I'll hand it over to you now." Swoosh. The bald-headed martial artist flicked his wrist and tossed the storage bag to Ningyu. Pa. Ningyu stretched out his right hand and caught the storage bag steadily. However, even though he caught the storage bag, Ningyu's expression did not look good. He waved the storage bag in his hand and said to the bald-headed martial artist, "I'll give you one more chance." "Are these really all your worldly possessions?" Really? Fut. The bald-headed martial artist gritted his teeth. Before the bald-headed martial artist could finish his words, Ningyu flicked his finger and a cold light flew out. Kai Kai. The cold light swept across the void, and under the horrified gaze of the bald-headed martial artist, it pierced through his temple. Thump. The bald-headed martial artist's eyes widened as his body fell backward. Gasp. The death of the bald martial artist caused the surrounding martial artists to suck in a breath of cold air. Very quickly, the surroundings fell into dead silence. Ningyu acted as if nothing had happened. He casually threw the bald-headed martial artist into his storage ring and said indifferently, "I'll say it one last time. Whoever wants to live, hand over all your worldly possessions to me. You're going back on your word." The bald-headed martial artist has already handed over all his worldly possessions to you, but you. Fart. Suddenly, a lame late-stage heavenly immortal martial artist yelled. Ningyu did not waste his breath. He flicked his finger again and a cold light shot out. Just like the bald-headed martial artist, the lame late-stage heavenly immortal martial artist fell to the ground on the spot and died tragically. The death of the bald-headed martial artist and the lame martial artist made the expressions of the martial artists who hoped to get lucky very ugly. They originally thought that Ningyu was bluffing them. Who would have thought that Ningyu could really see through them? In this case, if they wanted to live, there were only two possibilities. First, defeat Ningyu, or even kill him. Second, according to what Ningyu said, hand over all their worldly possessions. I'll do it. Not long after, a long-haired late-stage heavenly immortal martial artist threw out a storage pouch. I'll do it too. Me too. I'm willing to hand over all my worldly possessions to you. Even if you want me, it's not impossible. With the first long-haired martial artist taking the lead, the remaining martial artists seemed to have their psychological defenses shattered in an instant and followed suit. There were even beautiful martial artists who boldly confessed their love to Ningyu. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. Looking at the storage pouches flying towards him, Ningyu did not panic. Instead, he opened his storage ring and did not reject any of them, putting them all into his storage ring. Can we go now? After handing over the storage pouches, the surrounding martial artists looked at Ningyu with apprehension and asked cautiously. After all, losing all their worldly possessions meant that their lives were completely in the hands of Ningyu. It could be said that, if Ningyu wanted them to live, they might not necessarily be able to because this was the path to heaven and it was extremely dangerous. However, if Ningyu did not want them to live, they would definitely die. Whether you leave or not doesn't seem to have much to do with me, right? Ningyu shrugged and said indifferently, let me give you a piece of advice. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. The surrounding martial artists were dumbfounded when they heard about Ningyu's physique. Could there be a third party hidden in the void? At that thought, the surrounding martial artists released their senses, wanting to see if there were any hidden martial artists in the void. Killing with a borrowed knife. They want to use these people to deplete our strength. The purple-robed elixir puppet's face was livid and he gritted his teeth in hatred. Chapter 2071. Don't worry. Ningyu might not be talking about us. The cultivator in the bamboo hat had a different opinion from the elixir puppet. In his opinion, the oriole that Ningyu was talking about was most likely another group of people. After all, he had also sensed several powerful auras in the surroundings. Even he couldn't say that he had 100% chance of winning against the owners of those auras. It might not be us. The elixir puppet was taken aback at first, but then he also released his senses. Fut, 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 fut. As soon as the elixir puppet released his senses, the cultivators that Ningyu had taken away all vomited blood, and their auras plummeted. What's going on? The sudden change left the elixir puppet dumbfounded. An expert is making a move. The elixir puppet immediately reacted. He stared gravely into the distance and said in a low voice, "We're in big trouble this time." "Ah, Ningyu, why did you go back on your word? You'll die a horrible death. Who's sneaking around? Who dares? Fut. Run, run. It'll be too late if we're late." In an instant, all sorts of screams resounded in the area. However, the screams only lasted for a few seconds before they completely disappeared. The disappearance of the screams meant that all the late-stage sky immortal cultivators had been killed. Whoosh! Not long after the deaths of the cultivators, the void split open, and a man in a light blue robe slowly appeared in front of everyone. Hiss! Ningyu couldn't help but gasp when he saw the man in blue. Powerful. He's too powerful. An abstruse immortal? Ningyu frowned and said in an uncertain tone. Ningyu could sense the aura of an abstruse immortal from the man in blue. However, Ningyu knew that even if the man in blue was an abstruse immortal, he couldn't unleash the power of an abstruse immortal. Otherwise, he would have been the first to kill him. After all, he had taken away all the corpses of the netherworld hounds that belonged to the man in blue. All of you, come out. The man in blue did not pay too much attention to Ningyu. He casually threw a few punches in all directions. Huala, huala, huala. Wherever the blue-robed man's fist light passed, the void exploded. When the fist light stopped, a martial artist appeared in the void. Phantom Rat Clan. When the sharp-mouthed Mirage Mouse was blasted out, Ningyu's jaw dropped. His face was filled with disbelief. In an instant, Ningyu decided to refine the phantom armor again. The Mirage Rat Clan wouldn't appear for no reason. Every time they appeared, it was for some important matter. Given the way the Mirage Mouse was looking at Ningyu, Ningyu was able to instantly come to a conclusion. Refining the phantom armor, Ningyu was not an indecisive person. He winked at Red Devil next to him. Red Devil understood and immediately entered the storage ring to refine the phantom armor. Since Red Devil was a sword spirit, he had experience in helping the Red Devil sword increase its grade. Therefore, it was the best choice for him to refine the phantom armor. Zhao Rui and Immortal Hong Ling had already flown to Ningyu's side before the man in blue appeared. Seeing Red Devil enter the storage ring, the two of them frowned but did not ask. At this time, the two of them seemed to be of little use. But Zhao Rui was careful. She stood to the right of Ningyu, and the right of Ningyu happened to be where the sharp-mouthed Mirage Mouse had appeared. It had to be said that Zhao Rui had a sharp eye. She could tell that Ningyu might have a grudge against the sharp-mouthed Mirage Mouse. Therefore, she helped Ningyu pay attention to the mouse's every move. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. After the sharp-mouthed Mirage Mouse appeared, Moran of the Everlasting Cave, the Pill Puppet Clan's purple-robed Pill Puppet Clan's Pill Puppet Clan, and the Bamboo Hat martial artist were all forced to appear from the void. You've hidden yourself quite well. The man in blue was obviously not satisfied. He raised his right hand slightly and pressed it down. Boom. The man in blue's move was extremely powerful. Apart from shattering the void, the entire mountain range began to tremble violently. Humph. A cold harumph responded to the man in blue. Whoosh. After the cold harumph, an old man flew out from the void and charged toward the man in blue. Judging from the old man's posture, it was obvious that he wanted to exchange blows with the man in blue. I'm going to kill you. Ningyu was dumbfounded when he saw the old man. He could not help but swear. If he was shocked when the sharp-mouthed Mirage Mouse appeared because of the phantom armor, then he was shocked when the old man appeared because of the time pagoda. The old man was not a stranger. He was the old man at the top of the ivory tower of the great Xia kingdom. He was the old man who had given him the time pagoda. His cultivation base is so high. Ningyu's expression was solemn. He could not determine the man in blue's true cultivation base, but he could determine the old man's. Half-step Xian Immortal. The old man's cultivation base was at the level of a half-step Xian Immortal. However, Ningyu was puzzled. Logically speaking, how could a powerful martial artist like the old man be hiding in an ivory tower? In other words, it was impossible for the old man to survive in the plane barrier of the immortal spirit realm. Even if the old man used a special method to hide his cultivation base, it was impossible for him to survive. Because the distance between a half-step Xian Immortal and a human immortal was so great that no matter how hard a half-step Xian Immortal hid his cultivation base, he could not escape the detection of the plane barrier. Could this be his elder brother or younger brother? Ningyu thought to himself. Bang! At this moment, the old man and the man in blue had already started fighting. The fight between the two of them was not earth-shattering and earth-shattering. Instead, it was a probing attack. Old man, you came at the right time. The man in blue regained his composure and the corner of his lips curled up into a smile. I was just worried that these little guys wouldn't be able to provide me with the energy I need. Now that you're here, you've solved my problem. Aren't you afraid that the wind will cut your tongue? A piece of trash with half a foot in the grave. If it wasn't for the earthly hellhounds, you would have died a long time ago. The old man revealed a disdainful look. I can kill a martial artist like you with a flip of my hand. Ha ha ha. The man in blue seemed to have heard the funniest joke in the world. He laughed wildly and said coldly, "I hope your mouth is still as tough as it is now." As the word tough fell, the man in blue's figure gradually turned illusory and disappeared. Rumble. As soon as the man in blue disappeared, the ground shook violently. Not good, it's the immortal exterminating demon formation. Chapter 2072. Not bad, little kid. You actually know about the Immortals exterminating demon array. Unfortunately, even if you know about the Immortals exterminating demon array, you will still die today. In the void, the man in blue could not help but take another look at Zhao Rui. After all, the Immortal Annihilation Devil formation was an ancient formation, and even some mysterious Immortal Realm experts might not know of it. Since Zhao Rui knew about the Immortal Exterminating Demon formation, it meant that she most likely came from a powerful force. Let's go. The old man seemed to know how terrifying the Immortals Exterminating Demon formation was. His figure flashed and he was the first to rush out, unleashing a powerful attack towards the void. Rumble. The attack of a half-step profound immortal was extremely powerful. In a split second, the void cracked and the man in blue was thrown out of the void. Rise. However, even though the old man had thrown the blue-robed man out, he was still unable to stop the formation of the Immortals vanquishing demon formation. In just a few seconds, the blue-robed man had successfully set up the Immortals exterminating demon formation. Ha ha ha. After the Immortal exterminating fiend array appeared, the blue-robed man raised his head and laughed maniacally. This is truly a case of wearing out iron shoes in fruitless searching only to find it by chance. With these tonics, I, Lei Chenqiang, might even have the chance to return to my peak state. Bang! A muffled sound rang out. Soon after, a pair of golden wings suddenly appeared on the back of the blue-clothed man, Lei Chenqiang. Flapping his wings, Lei Chenqiang once again soared into the sky. Lei Chenqiang occupied the high ground and made a grabbing motion with his right hand. A cold light suddenly shot towards the ground. Ka. When the cold light came into contact with the ground, it directly shattered the ground. A huge stone pillar shot out from the ground and soared into the sky. Suppress him. Lei Chenqiang took a step forward and landed firmly on the top of the stone pillar, stopping it from rising any further. Now, you can enjoy this feast. Lei Chenqiang sat cross-legged on the stone pillar, the corners of his mouth curving upwards. At this moment, Lei Chenqiang was abnormally relaxed. He didn't even care about the life and death of the old man and Ningyu. Because in Lei Chenqiang's opinion, Ningyu and the old man's group would undoubtedly die. In order to set up this Immortals exterminating demon formation, it took him several decades. Once the Immortal vanquishing fiend formation was activated, even a profound immortal expert wouldn't be able to escape. The Immortal exterminating fiend formation was enough to kill a profound immortal expert. Damn it, what's going on? Within the Immortal exterminating demon formation, the first people to suffer were the relatively weaker purple-robed pill puppet and the bamboo hat cultivator. At this moment, their feet seemed to be fixed in place. No matter how hard they tried, they couldn't move an inch. Shoo! Shoo! Suddenly, two thorns shot out from under the feet of the purple-clothed Dan puppet and the bamboo hat martial artist, piercing through their feet. Ah! What the hell is that? Get out of my way! The purple-clothed Dan puppet and the bamboo hat martial artist screamed hysterically at the same time. However, no matter how they shouted, they could not move at all. At this rate, it was very likely that they would not be able to hold on for long before they were killed. We surrender. It was a critical moment. In order to survive, the purple-robed Dan puppet and the bamboo hat martial artist chose to surrender. Surrender. At the top of the stone pillar, Lei Chenqiang opened his eyes slightly. However, when he sensed the cultivation of the purple-clothed Dan puppet and the bamboo hat martial artist, he slowly shook his head. These two aren't even half-step profound immortals. There's no point in keeping you alive. Lei Chenqiang shrugged and closed his eyes again. Actually, Lei Chenqiang was just saying it casually. In his heart, he would not show mercy even if the purple-clothed Dan puppet and the bamboo hat martial artist were half-step profound immortals. After all, He urgently needed energy, a large amount of energy. Before he could enjoy the 45 corpses of the underworld hounds that he had left behind in the 5 formation cores, Ningyu had stolen the chicken halfway. Therefore, he only had one thought at the moment, and that was to devour all the experts in the immortal exterminating demon formation. Then, he would go to the end of the path to heaven and fight with the martial artists there to see if he could devour them all. The reason why Lei Chenqiang had this thought was because once he devoured Ningyu and the others, there was a high chance that his cultivation would recover to the profound immortal level. A profound immortal level cultivation would be enough for him to gallop at the end of the path to heaven. At the very least, he would be undefeatable. Ningyu, you can't just watch us die. If we die, you won't be able to live either. Seeing that they couldn't surrender, the purple-clothed Dan puppet and the bamboo hat martial artist turned their attention to Ningyu. Now in this area, only Ningyu's performance could be considered a little calmer. The others, including the sharp-mouthed shadow mouse and even the old man, had grave expressions as if they were facing a great enemy. At this time, the purple-clothed Dan puppet naturally believed that Ningyu had a way to break the immortal exterminating demon formation. Ningyu only glanced at the purple-clothed Dan puppet and the bamboo hat martial artist before turning his head away. The immortal exterminating demon formation was an ancient formation. How could Ningyu possibly break it? The reason why Ningyu was relatively calm was because he didn't want to expose himself too much. In other words, he was accumulating strength. There were still a dozen or so profound immortal level Earth Netherhound corpses in his storage ring. Moreover, Zhao Rui was secretly pouring all the energy in her body into his body. Coupled with the magic treasures and pill puppets that he had just plundered from the late-stage Sky Immortal experts, he had a 10% chance of breaking the immortal exterminating demon formation. Don't think that a 10% chance was small. However, a 10% chance was already very good. I have to use the tribulation lightning liquid. Ningyu's expression was solemn. He gritted his teeth and decided to forcefully devour the tribulation lightning liquid. According to Ningyu's plan, the tribulation lightning liquid in his storage ring was to be used when he attacked the late-stage Sky Immortal or even the peak Sky Immortal. Now, in order to break the immortal exterminating demon formation, he had to use it in advance. However, even if he devoured the tribulation lightning liquid in advance, Ningyu would only increase his chance from 10% to 20%. 20% chance, to be honest, wasn't too high. You can use the Time Square Pagoda. Just as Ningyu was thinking about how to contact the old man's words suddenly resounded in his ears. Hearing this, Ningyu was stunned at first. He then looked at the old man with a face full of disbelief. This was because the old man's next words left him dumbfounded. There is an extremely terrifying energy within the Time Square Pagoda. The old man's words were extremely shocking. He did not beat around the bush and said directly, "Back then, I handed the Time Square Pagoda to you out of selfishness. Who would have thought that you would never open the Time Square Pagoda? Now that things have come to this, I won't hide it from you. At that time, I could already tell that you possessed the battle god physique. Therefore, I wanted to use the blood of your battle god physique to nourish the Time Square Pagoda." Chapter 2073. Whoosh. Ningyu was a little angry when he heard that the old man had schemed against him in the past. However, Ningyu did not show his anger. He knew that the most important thing at this stage was to find a way to break the Immortals' vanquishing demon formation, not to go against the old man. With a flick of his wrist, Ningyu took out the Time Pagoda from his storage ring. Ningyu did not waste any time. He forced out a few drops of blood from the divine body of war and dripped them on the Time Pagoda. Boom! As soon as the blood of the divine body of war dripped on the Time Pagoda, Ningyu felt a terrifying energy surging in the Time Pagoda. Gasp! Ningyu gasped when he felt the terrifying energy. The amount of energy far exceeded Ningyu's imagination. Originally, Ningyu thought that even if there was a lot of energy in the Time Pagoda, it would only increase his chances of breaking the Immortals' vanquishing demon formation from 20% to 30%. However, the current situation made Ningyu realize that he was wrong, and very wrong. 50%. The energy in the time pagoda was enough to increase his chances of breaking the immortals' vanquishing demon formation from 20% to 50%. At this moment. On the other side, the purple-robed pill puppet and the bamboo hat cultivator finally could not hold on and died on the spot. Swoosh, swoosh. After the purple-robed pill puppet and the bamboo hat cultivator died, two streams of energy gushed out from their bodies and flew toward Lei Chenxiang in midair. Come here. Ning Yu held the time pagoda in his hand and immediately intercepted the energy of the purple-robed pill puppet and the bamboo hat cultivator. Ning Yu was in need of energy now. It was always good to have more energy. Interesting. On top of the stone pillar, Lei Chenxiang's lips curled up and he said calmly, "You guys killing each other can save me some trouble." Lei Chenxiang did not care who took the energy. In his opinion, all the energy would eventually belong to him. Because he controlled the Immortals' exterminating demon formation, he was the master of the Immortals' exterminating demon formation. Unless Ning Yu and the rest could break the Immortals' vanquishing fiend array, he would always be in control of Ning Yu and the rest. What do you want? When Mo Ran saw Ning Yu intercept the purple-robed pill puppet and the bamboo-hatted martial artist's energy, his expression turned ugly. He looked at Ning Yu coldly and said fiercely, "Let's mind our own business. I didn't do anything to you, noisy." Before Mo Ran could finish speaking, Ning Yu held the Time Square pagoda in his hand and launched a powerful attack at him. Ning Yu's thinking was very simple. If he could get rid of one more, he would have more energy. It would be very helpful for him to break the immortal vanquishing demon formation later. Show. Not only did Ning Yu attack Mo Ran, the old man also attacked the sharp-mouthed Mirage Mouse. As for Zhao Rui and immortal Hongling, they were bitterly holding on. Although their feet were not pierced by the cold light, their bodies had been fixed and they couldn't move at all. They were in a critical situation at the moment. Unless Ning Yu and the old man could quickly get rid of Mo Ran and the sharp-mouthed Mirage Mouse, they would definitely die. Kill. Ning Yu was obviously aware of this situation. He flicked his wrist and took out the essence-creating divine stick. He held the essence-creating divine stick in his left hand and the Time Square pagoda in his right hand. Block it. At the moment of danger, Mo Ran took out a black flying sword from his arms and held it in front of him. Crack. Unfortunately, Mo Ran's flying sword was only a peak stage heavenly treasure. The levels of the essence-creating divine stick and the Time Square pagoda were obviously much higher than the peak stage heavenly treasure. The essence-creating divine stick was a peak stage mysterious treasure, so the level of the Time Square pagoda was definitely not low. How could he win when he used a peak stage heavenly treasure flying sword to fight against a peak stage mysterious treasure flying sword and a Dharma treasure that was very likely to be more powerful? The result was obvious. Mo Ran's black flying sword was broken in half on the spot. After succeeding in his attack, Ning Yu did not stop. Instead, he gave chase. Hit the snake where it hurts, don't hold back. That was Ning Yu's code of conduct. I'm from the Wuheng cave. If you kill me, you won't have a good time. In a hurry, Mo Ran raised his head and shouted, trying to scare Ning Yu with the Wuheng cave. Even if I don't kill you, I won't have a good time. Ning Yu didn't fall for Mo Ran's trick. Anyway, he had already clashed with Mo Ran. If he didn't kill him, should he keep him alive to get reinforcements? You'll die a horrible death. Seeing that he couldn't convince Ning Yu, Mo Ran's eyes widened and he said angrily. However, before Mo Ran could finish his words, he was hit in the head by the essence-creating divine stick and the Time Square pagoda at the same time. In an instant, Mo Ran's head exploded and was badly mutilated. At the entrance of the path to heaven, Ning Yu's cultivation was only at the peak Earth Immortal and he didn't have many trump cards on him. Now that he had advanced to the mid-stage Heaven Immortal and activated the terrifying energy in the Time Square pagoda, he had an absolute advantage when fighting with Mo Ran. Mo Ran only lasted for a few seconds before he was killed by Ning Yu. Come out. As soon as Ning Yu killed Mo Ran, the sharp-mouthed shadow mouse spat out two armors from its mouth. Crack. The sharp-mouthed shadow mouse jumped and put on the two armors. Phantom armor. The armor that the sharp-mouthed shadow mouse took out was the phantom armor. However, The level of the phantom armor of the sharp-mouthed shadow mouse had reached the terrifying level of a dark treasure. As for Ningyu's phantom armor, it was still in the storage ring, being upgraded by Hong Mo. Before making a move, Ningyu quietly probed and found that Hong Mo had just upgraded his phantom armor to the heavenly treasure level. You two go into the storage ring first. Ningyu was not stupid enough to help the old man. He first helped Zhao Rui and Immortal Hongling get out of trouble and let them enter the storage ring. Then, he went to help the old man. After all, if he helped Zhao Rui and Immortal Hongling a little later, they would definitely die. Swish. Swish. Zhao Rui and Immortal Hongling were also self-aware. They also knew that they would not be able to help Ningyu and the old man if they stayed. Instead, they would become a burden. Therefore, the two of them immediately flashed and entered the storage ring. Damn it! The sharp-mouthed shadow mouse, who was fighting with the old man, was so angry that its nose was crooked. It had gone through a lot of trouble to come to the path to heaven and followed the aura of the phantom armor to this place. Originally, it wanted to grab Ningyu's phantom armor and merge the three phantom armors together to instantly create a Dharma treasure at the peak of the heavenly treasure level. However, when it saw the Essence Creation Divine Rod and the Time Square Pagoda in Ningyu's hands, its face became extremely gloomy. Because both the Essence Creation Divine Rod and the Time Square Pagoda were far above the peak of the heavenly treasure level. Even if it merged the three phantom armors, it would never be able to make the combined armor reach the dark treasure level. We don't have to fight to the death at all. The sharp-mouthed shadow mouse rolled its eyes and instantly made a decision. Chapter 2074. Join forces. Ningyu was slightly stunned when he heard the Mirage Mouse's words. He could not help but feel shocked. To be honest, Ningyu did not expect the Shadow Mouse to have such an attitude. After all, when the Shadow Mouse saw him, there was a murderous look in its eyes. We're facing a formidable enemy. If we fight among ourselves, Lei Chenqiang will inevitably find an opportunity. The pointy-mouthed Mirage Mouse hurriedly nodded. I admit it. The reason why my eyes were filled with killing intent when I saw you was because I wanted to snatch the Mirage armor from you. Because once the three Mirage armors fuse together, they'll form a new Mirage armor, and a new Mirage armor. And the new Phantom armor will only be at the peak of the heavenly treasure level. Do you think I'm a fool? Ningyu's face darkened. He had seen clearly just now that the two phantom armors on the sharp-mouthed Mirage Mouse's body were both mysterious treasures. Now that the Shadow Mouse said that the three phantom armors would become a heavenly treasure-level phantom armor, how could he not be angry? No. Suddenly, Ningyu seemed to have thought of something, and his eyes revealed a trace of joy. This is a matter of life and death. How can I treat you like a fool? The Shadow Mouse said hurriedly. In order to survive, the Shadow Mouse did not want to be Ningyu's enemy at the moment. Okay, take off the two phantom armors and give them to me. Then I'll agree to cooperate with you. Ningyu pretended to think for a while and then said, we have a common enemy. We really shouldn't fight to the death. No problem. The sharp-mouthed Mirage Mouse gritted its teeth, then took off the two Mirage armors and threw them to Ningyu. Pa. Pa. Ningyu waved his hands and caught the two phantom armors. Ningyu was overjoyed to get the two phantom armors without any bloodshed. Because he had already guessed why the sharp-mouthed Mirage Mouse insisted on working with him. In the eyes of the sharp-mouthed Shadow Mouse, the two phantom armors might not even be at the peak of the heavenly treasure level. But in his eyes, the grade of these two phantom armors were at the level of a mystic treasure. Why wouldn't he want the phantom armor that was given to him for free? Swoosh. Ningyu didn't waste any time. He directly threw the two phantom armors into his storage ring and warned Hong Mo to find a way to fuse the three phantom armors together to see if he could create a profound treasure intermediate stage phantom armor. Ningyu was very excited. He had the Origin Creation Divine Staff, the Red Demon Sword, and the Time Square Pagoda. In terms of weapons, he did not lack any. However, the only thing he lacked was a defensive armor. Now that he had two mysterious treasure-level phantom armors, there was no need to mention how happy he was. Release the energy in your body for me to use. Ningyu was not a fool. Although he was very excited, he did not show it. He looked solemn and said to the sharp-mouthed shadow mouse, "I now have a 50% chance of breaking the immortal's vanquishing fiend formation. Together with the energy in your body, it may increase the chance to 60%. Okay." The sharp-mouthed shadow mouse nodded heavily, then gathered the energy in its body into its fist and threw it at Ningyu. "I will help too." Seeing that Ningyu had convinced the sharp-mouthed shadow mouse, the old man also threw all the energy in his body to Ningyu. With the sharp-mouthed shadow mouse and the old man's energy replenishment, Ningyu now had a 70% chance of breaking the immortal's vanquishing fiend formation. Boom! Ningyu did not waste too much time. He stepped on the ground and rushed out in an instant. Ningyu was very clear about the principle of delay and changes might occur. No matter what, Lei Chenqiang was a Xian immortal expert at his peak. Even if he was not at his peak, he could still display the power of a half-step Xian immortal. If Lei Chenqiang could only display the power of a half-step Xian immortal, Ningyu naturally would not be afraid. After all, with his current strength, he already had the ability to fight against a half-step Xian immortal. But Lei Chenqiang controlled the immortal's vanquishing fiend formation. Within the immortal's vanquishing fiend formation, Lei Chenqiang was the absolute ruler. Interesting. On top of the stone pillar, Lei Chenqiang suddenly opened his eyes and a cold smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. "I originally wanted to see you two dogs fight each other. Since you two have joined forces, then I can only send you on your way in advance." Lei Chenqiang twisted his neck, then his body gradually enlarged. He grabbed the giant stone pillar with his right hand and fiercely swung it at Ningyu. Kai Kai. Although the stone pillar was huge, in Lei Chenqiang's hands, it was like a handy flying sword, and he was able to manipulate it with great vigor. Ding! In a split second, the Origin Creation Divine Staff in Ningyu's hand collided with the giant stone pillar. When the two collided, a huge shockwave almost caused the Origin Creation Divine Staff to fly out of Ningyu's hand. Even without the immortal's vanquishing fiend formation, killing you is as easy as killing a dog. Lei Chenqiang revealed a disdainful smile. Buzz. At the same time, Lei Chenqiang's aura was constantly increasing. In a short period of time, Lei Chenqiang's strength had more than doubled again. Although Lei Chenqiang had not recovered to the level of a Xian immortal, he was not far from it. "I'll break the immortal's vanquishing fiend formation later. My priority now is to kill Lei Chenqiang." Ningyu's eyes turned as he thought of a countermeasure. Since Lei Chenqiang was so arrogant, it was a good opportunity for him. If Lei Chenqiang used the immortal's vanquishing fiend formation from the start, he would definitely be defeated. After all, Lei Chenqiang's strength was only one step away from a true Xian immortal, and the immortal's vanquishing fiend formation was heaven-defying. Under such circumstances, Ningyu had to break the immortal's vanquishing fiend formation and deal with Lei Chenqiang at the same time. Naturally, he had no chance of winning. However, Lei Chenqiang did not use the immortal's vanquishing fiend formation and wanted to kill him with his own strength. This was somewhat arrogant. Kill. Ningyu gathered all the energy in his body, including the Netherworld Hound's corpse, the Times Square Pagoda, the sharp-mouthed shadow mouse, the old man, Zhao Rui and Ninglu's energy into his fist and chased after Lei Chenqiang. "Seeking your own death." Lei Chenqiang waved the stone pillar in his hand again and fiercely smashed it towards Ningyu's head. However, Ningyu clenched his right hand into a fist and suddenly punched. Catcher. This time, Ningyu was not pushed back. Instead, the stone pillar in Lei Chenqiang's hand broke in the middle. What? The sudden change caused Lei Chenqiang's expression to change greatly. Not good. Immortal's vanquishing fiend formation, activate. At this critical moment, Lei Chenqiang's body emitted several cold rays of light, wanting to activate the immortal's vanquishing fiend formation to kill Ningyu. However, it was too late for Lei Chenqiang to think of the immortal's vanquishing fiend formation now. Ningyu's fist had already arrived in front of him. Under his horrified gaze, it fiercely struck his heart. Puff! The fist swept past. Lei Chenqiang's heart was pierced on the spot. How is this possible? You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.